To make best use of our short time today while hitting all of the major speaking points, I have elected to use this presentation. There are 4 categories relevant to understanding the Tippecanoe County Assessor's 2022 budget request: the history of assessment funding in Tippecanoe, budgetary comparisons to similar jurisdictions, essential services provided, and an explanation of the proposed 2022 salary statement and organization chart. Assessor offices in Indiana are primarily funded by 2 accounts: the General Fund and the Reassessment Fund. Reassessment is the periodic review of the physical characteristics, locational rankings, and use of real property per IC 6-1.1-4-4.2. The Reassessment Fund nearly doubled in 2014 to accommodate legally mandated annual reassessment parcel quotas. Over the last 5 years, Assessment General Fund expenditures have been intentionally shifted to reassessment. During the 2015 and 2016 budget processes, it seemed prudent to utilize the over $400,000 of unappropriated reassessment balance to liberate general fund monies for other departments. Over the last 5 years, county salary increases drove departmental general fund budgets up, while the Assessor's Office general fund budget declined. With the reassessment excess funds all but spent, the 2022 assessment budget will rely more heavily on the general fund, or be cut substantially. To determine the reasonableness of historical and current assessment budgets, we have compared the general fund and reassessment expenditures of the Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office with the 10 most comparable assessor's offices in Indiana, including assessment departments that derive value for between 58,000 and 158,000 real estate parcels. It should be noted that not all counties provide identical services from each fund, differ in quantity and magnitude of personal property tax returns, and may or may not share various costs with other departments. We are also comparing the 2020 budgets from other counties that were set pre-pandemic, because that was the most updated information readily available on the DLGF gateway. To draw fair comparisons, we analyzed both the cost to assess each parcel and the total cost of assessment operations as a percentage of gross assessed value. Together, these indicators can be used to compare the overall efficiency and cost of valuation capture as a percent of budget. Historically, the Tippecanoe County reassessment and general fund expenditures are well below the 10-county average. The proposed 2022 Tippecanoe assessment budget is within the average on a parcel basis compared to 2020 costs of similar counties. The proposed 2022 Tippecanoe County assessment budget is still very lean as a percent of gross assessed value, or AV. Tippecanoe is one of the most efficient counties. The proposed 2022 assessment budget as a percent of gross AV is second only to Hendricks County, and less than half of some of the most similar jurisdictions. Simply comparing the cost of the assessment process relies on the assumption that all assessors in Indiana have similar processes and quality controls in deriving real estate values, but this is an inaccurate assumption. In 2019, the Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office launched OpenSourceAssessing.com to conduct joint assessment research, further assessment education, and compare performance across Indiana's diverse assessment community. Determining assessment equitability and accuracy in a uniform way can be challenging. So for this exercise, we looked at the inclusivity of assessment valuation algorithms. The Assessor's Office catalogs and classifies each sale of real property through state-mandated sales disclosure reporting. The DLGF produces a list of what they consider valid real estate sale transactions that should be used to derive assessed value. The DLGF then requires assessors to deliver reports to them proving that the proposed assessments reflect the approved sales levels prior to transmitting the new values to the auditor. The percentage of total sales that a county uses to support their valuation claims is directly proportional to their accuracy and equitability of the corresponding assessed values. For example, let's say that 2 identical counties have a year where the DLGF determines that 1,000 sales are usable for assessment derivation. A county that produces a report that compares the 1,000 sales to their 1,000 assessments will be more credible than a county that has to remove 800 of the 1,000 sales from their report to meet minimum accuracy standards. A comprehensive review of the annual adjustment performance of all 92 assessor offices in Indiana is available at the Open Source Assessing website. Tippecanoe was one of only 2 counties to use more than 80% of their sales data in the DLGF annual adjustment and review process, while various counties used less than 20%. It is apparent from an efficiency and sale inclusion perspective that the Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office produces some of the strongest and most defendable assessed values with below average cost per parcel and shoestring budget as a percent of value being assessed. The Tippecanoe County Assessor budget includes funding to provide essential core services to various public and government stakeholders. The willingness and ability to readily share property assessment and tax information online is foundational to a transparent real estate tax system. Since 2015, the Assessor's Office has assumed the role of administering the county's Beacon contract, adding data content, creating map layers, compiling pictures, assigning user roles, managing users, digital form integration, and managing Beacon's internal and external document management system. Over the last 5 years, the Assessor's Office constantly updates registered users of new content, responds to public inquiries, and resolves maintenance issues. The Assessor periodically hosts Beacon training sessions in local real estate offices, sometimes to impart practical knowledge, sometimes more formally for realtor continuing education. The auditor's digital plat book, the vast physical assessment data that describes the land and building features for each parcel, the valuation data, and the tax and billing information, comprise some of the most economically important data sets in Tippecanoe County. In accordance with equal opportunity employment standards, the proposed budget formally compensates the roles that have administered public GIS maps and data sets over the last 5 years. The Beacon user statistics speak volumes. In 2021, this year to date, Beacon users consumed over 5 million data and map screens in over 350,000 visits. Almost 70% of the visits are attributed to data searches and reports. The Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office maintains internal and public-facing GIS systems designed to streamline internal workflows, analyze valuation data geospatially, collect property data in the field, interact with the public, and foster a collaborative research environment for joint projects with various city governments and Purdue University. The Assessor's public-facing hub proved valuable during the COVID-19 pandemic, delivering voting center location maps with live wait times during the 2020 election cycle and food insecurity resource maps. The Environmental Systems Research Institute, Esri, supplies the software that every Tippecanoe County department uses to view aerial images and geospatial data. Even Beacon, like many vendor-supplied GIS solutions, features Esri map viewers. Esri operates 49 offices and 11 research centers across the globe, employing people from 73 countries. Each year, the founder of Esri solicits nominations from industry professionals to be considered for the Special Achievement in GIS Award. A small fraction of 1% of the over 100,000 Esri-powered GIS sites are selected for this prestigious award. In 2021, the Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office was honored to be the only organization in Indiana, government or private, to win the Esri Sag Award for its hub site. It is no coincidence that the Sag Award comes 1 year after launching the Assessor's GIS Hub under a mission and set of policies designed to empower a large group of county employees and third-party researchers to leverage state-of-the-art analytical and workflow management tools. The Assessor's Office maintains a robust county-wide agreement to process digital forms and signatures. The 2022 assessment budget continues to support digital workflows for various City of Lafayette and Tippecanoe County departments, as it has done since 2017. There are hundreds of state and local government forms that have been digitized under the County Assessor's Seamless Doc contract, but the most utilized processes are opting out of paper notifications, correction of assessment and taxing errors, mobile home transfer permits, assorted community correction administrative forms, City of Lafayette building permits, filing property assessment appeals, property tax exemption applications, filing business tangible personal property tax returns, agricultural and farm tax returns, and several others shown here on this list. The thousands of forms submitted digitally through Seamless Docs have saved staff time by reducing data entry, helped reduce the production and storage of paper, reduced unnecessary human contact during COVID-19, and, most importantly, provided a core service to Tippecanoe County citizens and businesses, saving them time and money. Personal property tax returns are received and processed by the County Assessor's Office. but the taxpayer is responsible for reporting accurately. In real estate assessment, the assessor derives value and notifies the taxpayers annually. With personal property, it is reversed. The taxpayer derives their assessed value and reports it to the assessor via State Form 102, 103, and 104. The detailed auditing of a business tangible personal property tax return has historically been handled by a contract with Tax Management Associates, TMA. The auditing of Tippecanoe County's growing and changing industrial tax base that pays the majority of personal property taxes countywide requires experience and knowledge of federal and state income tax practices and laws that are outside the purview of the assessor's typical core competencies. TMA audit contracts encompass audits for businesses that report over a certain threshold and charge on a per audit basis, as opposed to commission. Each full audit takes 2 to 3 years to complete at a cost of approximately $1 million. Personal property discovery revenue and expenses are paid from a specific account that, per Indiana code, can only be used to pay contractors or distribute tax revenue. Surprisingly, revenue and expenses from this fund are not discussed during budget hearings. Depending on the frequency of audit cycles, they have major revenue production potential. TMA audit cycles have netted as much as $3.5 million in excess tax revenue over the original filings, but the last cycle struggled to break even. Unfortunately, due to the untimely death of a key employee, high turnover, and loose training, the personal property audits agreement with TMA disintegrated. During the 2020 budget cycle, the Tippecanoe County Assessor's Office attempted to internalize the personal property auditing work process. The goal was to create an automated work environment in ARC Esri Online to help flag abnormalities and outliers to create a fair, unbiased audit docket. The audits were to be performed by a new full-time job to be paid out for of the Personal Property Audit Fund. By allowing us to control the workflow and cutting out excessive corporate profits, we estimate the cost of audits could be drastically reduced. However, the funds earmarked for audits legally can only be used for contractors and not employees. Unable to fund the position, the Assessor's Office resorted to a minimal personal property return review process. The Assessor's internationally recognized Esri Hub provides a working environment for multiple staff to organize personal property data geospatially, compare filings to real estate records for audit benchmarking, and discover missing filings and manage digital correction forms and taxpayer communication. These technological advances preclude the need to create the additional position requested in 2020. However, workload shifted onto the existing staff requires new training, added fiduciary responsibility, and is one of several factors that play into the overhaul of the Tippecanoe County Assessor's job classifications and organizational hierarchy. This 2013 organization chart reflects the changes made the last time the Tippecanoe County Assessor underwent a major staffing overhaul. This structure relies on customer service and field staff jobs to broadly perform a diverse array of specific tasks. Over time, these COM2 and COM3 employees find themselves cross-trained in various specialized roles. This 2021 budget classifies and defines roles based on actual expectations and responsibilities. This organizational structure is reflective of the actual office operations and attempts to title and compensate positions appropriately. There are several benefits to these changes worth mentioning. In this structure, each role was defined with operational goals in mind. By its nature, the chief deputy position cannot be so defined. In small to medium-sized county assessors' offices, having an elected official and chief deputy performing core valuation and managerial roles almost ensures noticeable flux during administration turnover. This organizational plan places the most important daily and cyclical work processes under the supervision of a well-empowered, appropriately compensated managerial team. We included funding for a chief deputy due to lingering legal questions and the desire not to deprive future assessors of a chief deputy if they should feel differently. However, should this budget and staffing proposal be approved, we would be willing to agree not to fill the chief deputy position in 2021 and/or move the funding for chief deputy to the Sales Disclosure Fund. The catch-all customer service job that predominates the 2013 staffing chart has been broken into distinctly different roles. Personal Property and Data Coordination, and Field Staff Specialist. The Personal Property and Data Coordination job allows the Assessor's Office to incorporate the previously contracted personal property audits without unfairly adding this responsibility to existing staff without compensation. The Field Staff Specialist allows the Assessor's Office to formally stratify and compensate field data collectors based on their experience and working knowledge listing complicated commercial and industrial facilities. The township offices were consolidated when the roles of the 10 trustee assessors were transferred to the county assessor's office in 2008. The scope of work for the county assessor's office went from assisting the trustees in their assessment of 16,000 rural parcels to assessing the entire 64,000 parcel county, including the entire commercial and industrial tax base. To handle the major influx of responsibilities, the assessor created 4 PAT 5 senior deputy positions to manage the vital assessment departments. These top-level management positions were eliminated in the 2013 reorganization. Over the last 13 years, a huge real estate boom has expanded the assessor's office technical and fiduciary responsibilities, but assessment managers are currently classified lower as PAT 4 employees. This proposal reinstates the senior deputy position to oversee the operational, valuation, and technological aspects of assessment in Tippecanoe. Thank you for your time and consideration. I hope this format was efficient and informative. Mr. Grossman should be present to field questions and comments. Thank you for your time.
Eric, that was phenomenal. Very, very impressive. Good job.
Good? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, really tragic. He lost a lot of weight, had a stomach staple surgery, and as soon as he lost the weight, tragically had a heart attack one day and passed suddenly. So yeah, it really had a major effect on that contract. And it's really inexplicable to me, considering we're anywhere between a $1 to $1.5 million office, that an audit contract takes every bit of $1 million, if not more, and is not even discussed in these. It's paid separately, but we are absorbing that cost, and we're going to have to make a scope of work with the employees we have to get that done in-house. Part of it's not fair because that $1 million was spread over 2 or 3 years, and most of that is corporate profits, not actual work. Like, I would estimate probably like 20–25% of that was actually salaries and wages for that company. It was really kind of an exploitative situation. And the money in that account, which is probably like $400,000, is probably going to sit there until the agreement with our attorneys that I think in about 4 years statute of limitations for billing against that money passes, and that can be redistributed. Or any money that isn't contested could be distributed, which is still like a large 6-figure number, probably $250,000.
What is the number of the account, do you know? Is this you're talking about the personal property audit? Yes. And you're saying we don't normally review that in the county? It's
never part of this discussion, okay, or any budgetary discussion whatsoever. But like I said, we're talking about $1 million cost, potential to generate $4 million per cycle, and huge revenue, huge expenses. That's just off the table of discussion, which I don't think is appropriate if our office is going to be expected to absorb that workflow, especially for no additional cost. And this is something where it's a hard situation for us because this money that mostly comes from the commercial industrial tax base, I mean, we audit fairly, but the stuff where you find $2 million, and that's from like SIA, Caterpillar, it's the industrial tax base that has the big audits where there could be a big discrepancy. And when there is a discrepancy, the money sits in this fund and doesn't do anything until it's either distributed or used for another audit contract. And yeah, it could be really substantial. That was one where the main benefactor of those distributions are things like city government, school corporations, reassessment. And because it doesn't seem like distributing money from that really helps the general fund, I know council in previous discussions has been hesitant to fund positions from it to the benefit of mostly city jurisdictions. And that's why we attempted to find funding for it with the fund that was already earmarked for audits, but we ran into all sort of legal issues. And really, I think it would take an act of legislature to put in the word to pay a contractor, comma, or employee, comma. But until comma or employee, comma happens, that money has to be contractor reserved. And there's only 3 contractors that do this in the state. I think we've dealt with 2 of them in the past to not much, recently have not been very successful. So I feel like it should be internalized. And I have some letters from the public too, especially local CPAs who express desire for it to be internalized, would rather work internally with a group of people from the county than out-of-state contractors held up in their office for long periods of time. But, and as the presentation said, we've made a lot of technological advances. We don't actually need that new job. We do have the technology, I think, to effectively pass on a reasonable scope of work to existing staff should our salary statement go through its paces.
Eric, I know some of the discussion earlier was based upon, the process of the county to go through the different stages and have them rated a certain level.
Yeah.
Do you feel that maybe if you and Shirley were able to kind of like continue the path of getting everybody in the right status, that might, be doable for all of us?
Yeah, let me explain. And I may have caused some confusion here. I realize that there's a process for this, right? And it goes from the HR board to the attorneys to the commissioners to the council, right? And so by starting here, it almost seems like I'm starting at the end of the process and working back, which was not my intention. This is something that, per my discussion with Shirley, it takes a while to get your employees to fill out those surveys, and I just completed that, and that's why I haven't submitted anything. But the jobs created are either reclassification or like reclassifications and redescriptions of existing jobs, or bringing back jobs that formerly existed at a time when we had a lot less responsibilities. I'm confident, based on the way I've seen been through this process previously myself and seen my predecessors go through it, that this will happen. It's kind of hard because we aren't there right now to say these are approved, it's going to happen. And certainly there's probably some discussion that needs to happen about that, because like we put in our essential services, there's overlap with other departments. I'm asking you to fund things based on what people are doing, but you're funding it somewhere else too. We've asked for a lot more money. If this was a negotiation, we could all have our cake and eat it too. Like, I could present you a budget with less general fund expenditures that still presents the salaries at the rates I want to compensate my people with overall less expenditures, but we have to look at, what services we're providing, what could be consolidated into that. It would have to take, act of, you guys looking across countywide services and determining what you're going to fund. But yes, to answer your question, that's where we are with the process. I was not trying to circumvent the process. I fully expected to go through its paces, might even be changed. What I presented you was, and based on my discussion with Bob, if this does get approved, this is what it would be. The worst case scenario is what we've asked you to fund, which I think is still well within in various county averages. But yeah, what we presented was as if it was approved, knowing that we still have to even come back to this board as part of that process. But it seemed that acting as if we weren't going to do this and presenting you last year's budget and saying, hey, like kind of what Zach did, I'm still working on salary statements, I'm going to do this later, that's not really, that won't work either, because last year's budget, we shifted so much to reassessment that that's not sustainable. A lot of those services would get cut if it was just last year's budget, and or we would bounce checks out of reassessment. So we can't go back to last year, and I definitely understand your hesitation to fund it as presented, but I didn't really know what else to do, because we are pushing towards this. It might not happen. There would never be a situation where they approve something that would result in more money or additional appropriations beyond what we asked. If anything, some of this could be scaled back and consolidated to where there'd be a bunch of residual funds beyond what we asked. And even in the presentation, when I compared it to the other 10 counties, you'll notice 3 budgets I have listed for Tippecanoe, 2020 or 2021, proposed 2022, and then 2022 alternate. That accounts for some of the consolidations, lack of chief deputy. And if you notice that, in a time when we increase salaries 6%, the assessor's budget is basically flat. So we've absorbed the 6% flat from 2021 if there's some consolidations and efficiencies, if there's discussion to be had. But yeah, it didn't really know how to approach this given where we were in that process, and didn't want to, misrepresent where we were in the process either.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Bob, how does the change that was proposed with respect to reassessment shift things in light of, the concerns about running short there?
He's got, and my numbers right now reflect, you see we're going from 523 to 699 because we've got the three positions plus the regular part-time are included in here at this point in time. So that is that part. Let me get back to this reassessment.
Oh, while I'm thinking of it, Ben, when I cruised upstairs last time, you kind of asked about sales disclosures training fund doubling. Yeah. That was one where sales disclosures, until like last year, we've always had 4 sales disclosures until I actually read the statute about what that fund could be used for and realized it could be used for assessor training. And if you notice that doubling, that $7,000 of training was never historically used before. And so what we did is we zeroed out our travel and training in reassessment and moved it all over there. So it really went from 15 to 17,000. It's all paid out of that fund. And then in 2020, for our continuing education, for our certifications, we basically took a hiatus. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't take any continuing education, some online stuff. But the reason it's 17 instead of 15 is we have to play catch up this year to get our continuing education. That might go back down next year, but I just want to clear that it wasn't doubling. We're just paying for it somewhere else to liberate money in reassessment.
So Eric, what I'm hearing you say, and if I'm not hearing this or interpreting this correctly, do you feel that what needs to happen, the next step, is to form a committee in the county to talk about all the different services that we have that we seem to maybe be able to consolidate into one specific area versus 2 or 3 departments doing some of the same things? Or what do you, I mean, I understand, you're going to work with Shirley and get the jobs.
Right.
Okay, so that's one step. But am I hearing correctly that there are some countywide services that you feel need to be consolidated that maybe are being duplicated?
Yes, and actually I would further say that it's not so much duplication as we're paying for multiple people to do the same stuff, and some people aren't doing it. But really we've had these committees and subcommittees and discussions over decades. And we've had turnover related to this. I've had court injunctions related to this. I mean, we've had the discussions. The problem is taking a discussions of elected officials where no one's empowered to make a decision, and having the commissioners or someone lord over that discussion where they might not be comfortable making the decision. The decisions don't get made. So it's not a lack of communication or discussion. That happens a lot. It's that despite the communication and discussion and presentation of data, who's doing what and how many people are using this versus this, it's that no decisions are made, no changes are made. And that's why you have a salary statement that now duplicates something, and that's the discussion. What are you going to fund, right? Like, because, and there's no solution. You've correctly identified the problem is like there's this duplication, there's efficiencies to be had, but all we're looking at the salary statement and the description of what they're doing. We're not looking at what is actually going on. Like, what are these people doing? Is there, you're looking at, and just by the nature of these meetings, right? Some people come up here, but before they even sit down, there's a motion to approve their budget. There's no discussion over what services are being provided, and it's awkward, and I'm not saying anyone wants to sit through these, but I think those are the hard discussions that aren't happening. It's not just like, does it look good on paper? It's what's happening. Is it actually getting done? Is someone else doing it? So that's what a lot of our salary statement is we've taken on a lot of informal roles, especially during the pandemic. The discussions haven't, seemed to produce any sort of long-term sustainability for a lot of the core functions that we've presented on. And so we've incorporated them into our budget to ensure their perpetuation.
What do you you finding on reassessment, Bob?
Well, one thing that we need to determine before we're said and done is how much property tax do we want to raise for reassessment? Eric had submitted the $353,000 that's shown here, and which is basically what we've had in the past. And if you look like over here, last year our budget was $402,000 total revenue, $483,000 in total budget. That's kind of a slippery slope to keep reducing your cash balance, like is what you can see down there. Now, with his budget that he requested, he's requested $256,000 with his revenue of $386,000. That would be gaining the cash balance with the assumption that none of those positions that were previously paid out of reassessment would be paid anymore and be paid out of the general fund. One thing that I think you need to, that I had projected out when I determined the levies, I had said, why don't we increase the levy by 10%? And that would make that the levy 407, and maybe we would be, I was using this 385 if I take out for tax caps, or maybe close to the 407, 400,000 or something like that. I have to advertise the levy when I do the final budget, so I need to know this number to put in there. But if I make that 400,000 and we leave everything alone, I'll just put that in there for now. And gaining $170,000 of cash that's not a terrible thing, but that's not something you want to continue over the course of time.
Well, and just that situation where we did have cash positive pool and reassessment, that's what led to that $450,000 when I, in 2016, said this is silly.
Right.
We're talking about not being able to afford police cars out of the general fund. We got $500,000 in reassessment. Let's switch everything over, burn that money so the general fund can
Yeah.
afford other things. But now that money's burnt. And now we're back to, we either have to be revenue positive at the expense of the general fund, and then if money does pool, then I'd be happy to switch it back. But I mean, there's a lot of flexibility there in that, in just by not funding the chief deputy job, making some efficiencies, there could be less general fund demand from the assessor's office. Then when you talk about shifting some of it over to reassessment, which could justifiably be done, we could even reduce our general fund impact from 21 to 22.
I can, if I make this 10% change 6% to equal the pay increase, well, if you notice that.
What is aren't we just moving it? It seems to me like having it in the assessor account versus having it in the general fund, isn't it all the same money? Because you put it in the assessor account, you have to put less in the general fund. So am I understanding that right? Is there an advantage of having the money in the assessor fund instead of the general fund, the reassessment fund?
Well, we have to have a reassessment fund.
Right.
You mean as far as just switching the employees around?
Well,
I mean,
even like why do we want to raise it at all? Why not just keep it where it's at, and now that money would then flow into the general fund where we have a lot more flexibility with
and
it?
we can keep this money, if we're going to move the employees over to the general fund, yeah, we don't want to raise the levy at all.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of two different parts of the same, two different cups that are in the same bucket of water. But I just need to know, for me to
Yeah.
do the budget, what do you want in there?
Yeah.
How much levy do you want? And part of that decision has to be, how much more I think we need to gain some cash in reassessment. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But is this, well, if I go back to what I had before there, is this appropriate to use his number? And if I use his number, I'm going to have to change my number over here to get, what was it, 353? Oh, not there, not there, not there. And now I'm at 29,850 over there in the general fund, and now that moved that up. That's fine.
Is there advantage of doing it one way or the other? That's
Not
what I don't
really.
know.
I just have to know, what do you want?
Yeah, no,
That-
yeah.
you know, and we always have to have money in reassessment. The way this is with this 353, and I think I have a few other little corrections, is one where first half of the year we got $443 of interest and we turned in 3840, so we're going to be investing well. But anyway, that's not a big change, but, and also we got some other change here from excise, but anyway, we're talking then about gaining, what, $125,000 in cash. That's fine, I mean, because we're only down to 182, and we can get, and this money's only put in there at settlement time. We get to the point of we're going to have negative cash for certain points of the year. But, if we're going to have the positions not in reassessment,
Yeah,
we need to
I
lower
guess-
the levy, I think.
We need to lower the
Lower
levy?
the levy of reassessment,
Okay.
which his number is fine then, if that's what you want to do. If that,
I don't know I don't know.
I don't really care. I don't know that it makes that much difference, but I just need to know what you want.
I feel like if our plan is approved as is, it doesn't matter much. Is there any, if the plan is not approved as is, it might be nice to have more reassessment money to,
Because you're talking about a $100 and some thousand increase probably. That would come out of unappropriated general fund, that, if that were all approved.
If we changed the reassessment, how much would that impact general fund levy?
Not, it would be like what I had before. From 29,850, you can just look at that number there, and if I go forward to changing that, so $55,000.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's basically moving $55,000 over to reassessment, because we have so much water in this bucket, and we're dipping out for reassessment, and we're dipping out for Cume Bridge, and general fund just gets whatever water's left.
Do we have a philosophy as a county council of what we think makes sense?
I like flexibility personally. I like the ability to be flexible with money around. And so if that's how I'm kind of making my decision in regards to this, if we fund the general fund positions, drop the tax levy down to 6%, be at the number that you presented at the 353, and then that allows us a little more flexibility if I'm hearing things correctly.
Input from others?
I agree with Ben.
Okay. We okay with that? I'm seeing agreement. Okay.
But now you're saying that might be too much, still too much money?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if we spend all the budget and get all the revenue, we're going to be gaining $125,000 in cash. That's not significant. We could have a big expense coming, but $125,000 like that. When we're talking about our cash balance being now down to $182,000 at the end of June, that's after tax distribution. I mean, so if you gain that, you'd be at $300,000. That's what we were just a few years ago. So I think that's fine.
And we'll look at it again next year anyhow, so.
And I'm going to change some of his revenue estimates. I changed the earnings to match what the treasurer had given me, what she thought the interest should be next year. And excise, it's got 25,000. We got almost 16,000 the first half of this year. So I think over here that we could easily, safely turn that to 30,000. And finally, financial institutions, I would go down a little bit from there. But we still have a nice cushion there.
Are we satisfied with that for now? Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric.
thanks, guys, I appreciate the consideration.
Then we'll move to the coroner. Or are we going to move to clerk first? Yep. Julie,
The clerk.
sorry.
Are we looking at voter?
Yep. Elections, registration.
Hi.
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So I know several of these, there's, or some of them, there's a slight increase. And I remember during our conversation, there was something about the 60,000 on professional ballot prep. Can you explain what that?
So
Was-
you are comparing first to 2018 and not 2020?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So in the ballot prep services, here's the issue. A lot of our, if we go with microvote, so we are going to get new machines. It's about $2.5 million in machines and services will be provided in a grant. However, we do not have e-poll books yet. We don't even have a contract with e-poll books. If we do not get the e-poll books in time, we cannot use microvote, the new equipment. We will be forced to use the old equipment for the primary, which means the same old pricing and the same old e-poll books. So this is also, it's a protection because we don't know where we're at right now. We don't. I keep questioning about the e-poll books and I'm not getting an answer, but there is no contract. So that's part of that 60,000. You know, we've spent that. It's very expensive. They've raised their prices since 2018 when you're looking at GBS and Votech. But then also I mentioned to our representatives that I think it's a good idea, knowing that if we do go with microvote and we do go with new e-poll books, next year most of that pricing is massively reduced only because it's in the grant. And 4 years down the road, I don't want to have anyone look at those numbers and think 0 is what they should have. It would be a bad number to look at 4 years down when they're planning for another county election. But we do not know what the costs are going to be, especially with the old e-poll books, even if the new ones. So, but I did mention that that could probably be reduced. There's some other ones that can be reduced, but I can also tell you where some are probably, it's underestimated by quite a bit. But some of those ones that advertising will probably be a smaller, but it could be larger ballot because you've got the delegate races. So it could be very long, so it could be an expensive advertising in the paper. Hardware maintenance, I think that won't be $4,000. Election workers, I think that could probably be lowered a few $1,000s. And capital equipment, that's another one where I threw in money because we don't know what to expect next year. We don't even know what machines we're going to use for the primary, being that we haven't even received the new election equipment, let alone the contract for the e-poll books. And I just want to make sure, is everybody understanding our situation with this, with the new equipment? No? Okay. So we had a grant for new equipment. Right now, we currently have GBS equipment. It's not VPAT, doesn't have a VPAT. We have gotten a contract and a grant to cover for new machines with microvote with VPATs, which is voter verifiable paper trail. That is what the people want. They want to prove on paper. The contract's been approved, but we have not received the equipment. I believe the equipment is done, but they're still getting the cases certified. So that is still in progress. We probably won't see them until maybe the end of the year. However, the e-poll books, we have Votech right now. Votech works with GBS, does not work with microvote. In fact, microvote will not share their information with Votech or anybody else so that we could use an e-poll book with their system. What that means, being that I've been waiting for a contract to get e-poll books on a grant with the state. That's probably going to be $300,000 worth. And we've also asked, because these e-poll books they're Apple-based, it is something that IT has said that they won't work with because they're Microsoft-based, but we didn't have a choice. But there is no contract. I don't have anything for sure that we're getting these. We don't actually fit the grant entirely because the grant was for counties that did not have e-poll books. We do have e-poll books. But I had worked with the Secretary of State, the previous Secretary of State, and she had approved it. I don't have that in writing. And in order to use microvote, we need the new e-poll books. So going back to, let's say we don't get it. We're still 6 months out. Well, no, my goodness, just a few months out. Almost the end of the year. I do not have a contract for e-poll books, which means we've got it set up that we're going to use GBS, our old system, along with VOTEC, our e-poll book old system. Does that make more sense?
What do you think is most likely to happen if you had to guess? You got to pick between getting the new machines or
Most
using the old
likely, so I'm
machines?
hopeful.
Okay.
And the state did, so I keep contacting Microvote and the state, what's going on. They did say it's coming. So I am very hopeful it's coming. But I'm also going to be cautious. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous that it went this far. I'm just surprised that I still don't have a contract. And it's the end of August.
So if we assume that you are getting the new machines, and then you don't, and you need more money, you can come back to us for more money.
That is true.
Okay. And we'd have to give it to you, probably, but yeah, okay.
So are there other questions?
Julie, can you educate me on the 1131 and 3955? They're both election workers. I don't know what the difference is between the two.
1131 and which one?
3955.
Oh, so we hire some people that actually work for the county, so they get paid through payroll.
It's 1131.
Those are your 1,000 numbers. And then the 39, the rest of them, if they don't have so many hours, they don't work a certain amount of money, we pay them by a check, so they're more like a contracted employee. That's the difference.
Thank you.
I can tell you, here's some re-precincting, is happening. We're hoping to actually lower our precincts by 10 precincts to get under 100, which does make things even less expensive. You have less ballot styles. It's what we're working on. We're thinking next year we'll have 16 sites for the elections. We'll probably have six people work at those sites. Primary ballots are going to be quite expensive because you're dealing with the delegates. The delegates, the precinct committeemen, means more ballot styles. That can be very expensive, the more ballot styles you have. I'm just trying to throw out information to kind of help you how we came up with numbers. Where I think that we really lowballed is meals. In the past, they didn't use the meals for election workers. They used it more for the board. And we are now breaking out the meals out of their pay. So before the meals was in their pay, it's still going to be in their pay, but it wasn't classified as meals. And last year we started breaking that out because I think it should show a true reflection of what costs are going where. So that's something that hasn't been done in the past. So I know that meals is definitely a low ball. Software, again, we don't know where the e-poll books, I have no idea on the software price. If there's going to be a yearly, there will be a yearly fee. It'll probably be about $15,000, but will that be in with the contract, with the grant? I don't know, if we get the new stuff. We also are talking, poll workers are getting $11 an hour. It is really low. You go work at Payless for $15 an hour. We want to talk to the board about raising that.
Any other questions?
Well, if I could get back to what Lisa was saying, and from what you're saying, more than likely, the grant will be approved. Would you say more than 50% chance, or I guess it doesn't even matter what percent chance
Yeah,
it is?
you know what, I have an email from them.
Okay. But since we have to cut 3.3 million, it just seems to me like we'd be better to make the assumption that you're going to have it. And if
Okay,
you don't have it by the 1st of January, we need to then talk about additional appropriation, either to the general fund to put it back in, or maybe eat it, or, you know, we could even put it in some budget, and maybe you wouldn't even need to use it, but
so,
we've got a lot to cut, and if this is a potentially you need it, I don't know that we can really allow it to be in there. You know what I mean? Just, if you may not need it, we're not really in the position to put those kind of things in there. But not that you're not going to get it, because you obviously will get it. We'll find some other funding. And if you found out, would that be before the end of the year, you assume?
oh, it better be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because even, I mean,
So-
if the commissioners thought there was some money in EAT it, they could do it out of there, we could do it before this year ended as additional appropriation.
I would, I mean, council, would you be happy if we lowered the ballot prep services to 20,000? Because we can do that. I don't think we're going to have, you know, if we go with this new, everything new, we're not going to have it next year. We will have it in 4 years, though. This is just a different year, so you all understand that. It's just because a lot of these services have been put in the grant to cover next year. And then capital equipment. If you could give me 5,000 instead of 13,000. Yeah. And I know that, I think in the past, they never used capital equipment. It's always, been zero. So just so you know about the new e-poll books, the new e-poll books, when I did more and more digging, it's not the e-poll book I would have liked to have. It is not the best for our county, but it's a very good e-poll book, so don't get me wrong. It just wasn't the best fitting for our county. One of the reasons is because we use Purdue Mackey Arena as one of our vote centers, and that requires a hookup to their main line. You can't use Wi-Fi at Purdue, and that means we need cradle points. We will need a router, and that may or may not be in the grant, but we will have to have those things. And by the way, that also causes an extra charge that we're not used to in the county for that data. But it is very secure for election. So that's one of the reasons why I am keeping open. I do want money in the capital equipment if we have to buy those outright.
So Julie, the main accounts that, because I think it's important that we do remember that in a few years, this will be totally different. And we would need to make sure that we know that these numbers are going to increase if we lower them. So can you just briefly go through the accounts that would affect? Is it just the two accounts, the professional ballot prep and capital outlay, or is there?
No, software is possibly another one, but again, I don't have a contract for e-poll books. What we've paid in the past for e-poll for VOTEC each year is $10,000. I do believe that No Ink is about $15,000. I don't know if that's in the contract. So that's why it's there. I may not have to spend it, though, if it's in the grant, but I do not know until I have a signed contract. I'm looking to see if there's others. Hardware maintenance might be something, but you're only looking at $4,000. It's not going to be much of a...
And in 4 years, we won't be looking at the budget, we'll be looking at what we spent. So.
Yes, but it's something that will be kept in my office just because who's ever clerk really needs to look at, well, I can leave my work no matter what. no matter what you have in your budget that's approved. I think I've shown that, we don't spend frivolously. We've been very, very careful.
Julie, you mentioned that your employees make $11 an hour.
Yes.
They get 40 hours in, do they?
Well, it depends. If they're an election worker that's being paid, like I said, there are rules with the federal government that once they hit $1,800, Shirley? I got to put them on payroll.
Then they still make
Then
$11 an hour, though.
Yes, they would, yes. Like I said, we're going to work on that, though. It's really low. We need good workers. Elections are getting more and more complicated.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all? Any
we
of the
wanna-
other counts?
Do we want
Are
to
we
do
gonna do clerks now?
clerk?
What?
Page 27.
There really isn't a whole lot
There
of
is
change with
nothing on
this.
there that you can cut. I'm sorry. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's pretty straightforward.
The difference why I like a lot of leeway in election gets very, very busy, and it is hard to do an additional appropriation at the last minute. It's just very stressful. With the clerk, the other funds, it's not that way. But during election, it is hard. I might forget, not know, find out, oh my gosh, we don't have the money. But whatever you need.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, do we want to go ahead and
Huh?
do the other funds as well
Yeah.
while you're here?
Okay.
Then you don't have to come back. 38, thank you, Bob. That's what I was searching through here, and I was trying
Which
to find
one
it.
is that? Perpetuation?
Perpetuation.
Right off the bat, I'd put $80 in the workers' comp.
Yep, you told me about that. And did you increase that one to 7,000?
I have not, but
No.
I got the note to do that. and that was
Okay.
for
3190 needs to go up to 7,000, and that's the bill we pay every year. That was a mistake on my part. I put 2340 in the line of 3190, and it really should have been 7,000. That's a contract we pay every month, the same amount. And sometimes another service might be in there. So I'm afraid there's not really anything that we can play around with on there.
Are you using the
What's the
part-time?
part-time?
If my number's right there, the end of June, we hadn't used any of the 50,000?
You know,
Or is
because
that-
of COVID 2020, we really aren't back to where we need to be. I mean, that is I didn't hire part-timers.
Okay.
There's two positions I didn't hire just because of COVID. There was no sense. We could get by with what we had, but now, we're interviewing right now to fill those and get it back to where we need to be, being that business is picking up. That part-time, by the way, would be, there is a mess over at the old jail that we need to clean out, storage, and I will have part-timers go through that and start organizing. Literally, their books and records just tossed in a room and the room door shut. And we need to go through that.
What page is that one on? 66?
Which is that incentive? 4D?
Yes. No, I don't have a number there for workers' comp. I don't have a number there for workers' comp, which I should, but let's put in like $50. I think that's plenty, just to make sure I have some.
So any questions about?
Okay. Are we all good?
I'll just let you know I'm being audited for this account coming up soon, next month. So.
Hey, Julie, before you leave, do you want to, because I know when we were talking about, you were talking about eventually you will need to be looking for a new space for your equipment. Do you want to
Yes,
touch on that
ma'am.
for a minute?
I do. Our space is very, very small for what we have. In fact, with the new machines and the new cases that are coming, we lose a whole side of each wall of the storage because you need so much room to walk in for a fire. And but not only that, we certainly learned last year that we don't have enough space. So what Microvote, when they came in, they said that we were about one-fifth of the size of the other counties that they work for. And Microvote is in the majority of counties in Indiana. So we are looking for a bigger space to work in and storage. And I've talked to the assessor that maybe there's something there that we can do. I still feel that storage-wise would still not be adequate, even if we switched offices. But thanks. Yeah.
I'll just add that we have the luxury at the same time as Julie's need for additional space that, we have the health department moving out of this building. So it does free up some space. Surveyor will be moving down to the basement that they currently occupy. So we'll be doing some rearranging, and Eric has been very good about offering up some switching of space. So we'll be working through that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, before you leave, and I
Yes.
don't think you probably have any comment, but the elected official training fund, you have a $6,000 request, and you have no comments on that, do you, except for that's what you had this year, and,
I'm so glad that they changed the law
yeah.
so we can use it for others.
Right.
Thank you, Julie. All right. Where were we in the general fund? Coroner. Yep.
Page 25.
Yes, page 25. Smokey's on deck. We've gone black. Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry. That's just the way it is.
Okay. Do you have the notes? Lots of changes. Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Ben and I have been working with our newly elected coroner, and this is her first budget, and realizing that even though Carrie was intimately involved for greater than 20 years with this department, she is now the elected official, and she's been very innovative as with her department. And as we all know, as reading in the newspapers and from the annual reports and quarterly reports that we've been receiving, this department has been extremely, extremely busy this year, and have met with a lot of challenges because this department has not had increases in staff for many, many years. So that's why, as we're going through, and the first thing we're going to see in our full-time employees is the fact that Carrie has been awarded 2 full-time employees. She will be having a records clerk that will be working from 8:30 to 4:30, and then a senior deputy coroner / quality control manager to help with some of the duties in the department. So you will see quite an increase in that full-time line item, as well as a job reclassification of her office manager, who has incurred some new duties as well. So that will give Carrie next year more hours and consistent hours in her department moving forward. Ben, any comments in regards to that item?
No, I'll just say it has gone through the Personnel Committee, and Wiz has reviewed it, and so it's gone through the entire process from start to finish to get those approved, just from a factual standpoint there.
Yes. And I will say that Carrie has developed a 5-year plan. So as we all know, sometimes things move slowly, but we are trying to look at that plan and try to implement some of the strategies that she's using right now in her department. Moving forward to now the elected official salary, as we know, the salary has been such for many, many years. Reviewing that salary, a determination has been made, and I'm going to preface this. As we all know, there's 2 different, by state statute, there is a salary for a licensed physician, be it a MD, a DO, or a doctor of veterinary medicine. And so our recommendation is that the MD salary would be $76,149, which in turn would take the salary for a non-MD to $50,766. Okay. Then part-time, we're going to take a real leap at this, and we're going to go down to $5,000 from $71,000. Now, Ben, I, and Carrie, we had discussions about this, receiving 2 new employees, realizing that historically it's been, we decrease the part-time if you're granted full-time employees, but we also realize this is going to be something new. We realize that there's a lot going on in that department, and that if she needs more, we will see her again. Okay? Part-time miscellaneous, and this is the one that when they open up cases and calls, $70,000 was requested. We're going to take that to $50,000, realizing Carrie had to come back this year because of the extreme busyness, unfortunately, in that department. So, through some, again, innovation that Carrie will be working with her staff, we're going to take that down to $50,000. Realizing, again, we may need to come back. Hopefully not. That would be good for our community. Then Social Security, retirement, Bob's going to deal with those as soon as he can deal with whatever he's dealing with his computer. Office supplies, going to take that down to $5,000 from $10,000, realizing again may have to come back. Morgue supplies, we're keeping it as is. Morgue services, medical, going to decrease that to $20,000 from $50,000. The reason for that is Carrie was able to secure a grant for this year. Hopefully she will be that successful next year. If not, realizing we're going to have to increase that, but we're assuming that Carrie's been able to increase revenue and different things, so hopefully that grant will come again this year. Autopsies, I'm going to take that down to $320,000 from the $341,280. Body transfers going to go down to $80,000 from the $91,000. Realizing again, this is just a best guess estimate. Hopefully we'll stay low. And then utility line, that's zero, that will need to go to 3192, and that's because Carrie was able to secure a grant to get some technology for her deputy coroner, so on the scene, they have an iPad that they can use. There's phone service on that, so we need to pay for the bill so that they can continue to be more efficient when they're out in the field. And then that 31, I don't know, Carrie, help me on this one with the dues and subscription. I know we took the 3192 out of that, but I don't know, how much do you need in the dues and subscriptions?
We do need the 4137. What I forgot was we have a search engine company that we use when we can't locate next of kin. Then we have, it's an ongoing monthly fee that we use, so.
Okay.
And it's CP Clear, I don't know what county uses, Purdue uses it, it's a wonderful search engine, so we don't have to keep going to the newspaper and asking the community to help us find the next of kin, so we can reunite them.
Okay, perfect. Again, one grant, and I will say this, that one grant that Carrie got when, in regards to the tablets, also, we were able to use some clothing money with that as well, and some flashlights and different things to equip them with the things that they need. So again, following her 5-year strategic plan, taking small steps, and this is if you look at this, it's a large leap, but it's small in regards to the 5-year plan that she has. So we're going to try to continue to make strides, realizing a space audit will be done for Carrie as well, because they are cramped in their work area and their storage area. So. Any questions of Ben, myself, or comments from Carrie?
The only comment I got, I didn't discover this till about 2 years ago, that I thought Dr. Schulte and Dr. Martin Avalt, they did the autopsies. I don't know if they did their own or not.
No, they did not.
I did not.
There were 2 in the state that were coroners and did autopsies.
Right.
But they operate on a whole different level, and
Yeah. I didn't realize that. Maybe I wasn't aggressive enough to figure that out, but, yeah, so. Who do we use for autopsies, or is that our?
Dr. Wolf, he's a forensic pathologist, one of, I think, 6 in the state.
Thank you.
I don't think we've incurred any additional, he's not raising his prices for us next year, is he?
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
That it?
Any other questions?
Any?
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
I would just add that Carrie has added increased revenue to the general fund this year that wasn't done in previous years. So she is working to help bill all the counties and try to recover as many costs as she can as well.
So,
Okay, thank you much. We'll move on to TEMA. And Sheriff, you're on next. No, after. Oh, you think you're going to get off that easy? Okay.
Good afternoon. Other than the increases associated with the pay increases, the only increase we have is $660 in utilities, largely because of the North 9th Street building we had for years, and we paid $9 a month because we didn't use it, and now once we started using it, there's an increase. And as well with our sirens, that's largely the big increases that we see are just the monthly increase we pay. We have 76 outdoor warning sirens. Duke charges us for every one. REMC does not charge us a dime. So those have gone up, but the large increase of $660 is for the North 9th Street building.
is that next to the DOC?
Yes, it's just south of Community Corrections.
Great big building that's.
No, this is an old
Building, I think.
50s pole barn that the commissioners put a floor in and wired it for us.
I took a tour of that, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of beat up.
That's all I have. If you have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Smokey.
I'll leave the mic on for the sheriff.
He'll probably need it for a lengthy period of time.
Everybody go get a drink.
It's not that bad.
I'm bringing this because apparently we're supposed to have presentations and stuff. I have nothing. I've got some stuff written down on paper.
You have
but that's it.
PowerPoint.
Okay. I don't know if you all want to talk first. I got to looking at this and I see where we can make some cuts.
Good, okay. Did you want to talk about the income figures that we had talked about?
Yeah, we
Prior.
came up with the sheriff fees. They were absolutely, Tracy, they were the 10% from the tax warrants, but it was entered improperly. It's supposed to be
35,000, I think you said.
Yeah, it's 35,199, something like that.
So the
We haven't heard back from the
320,000
DOs.
was a typo.
No, but it puts us going the wrong direction. What is it? What's on my note back there, Terry? The 32.5? I figured that's what it was, is a tax warrant.
On the tax warrant?
Yeah.
35,000.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, we're done.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on
From before?
The full-time employees, have you moved the employees to lit public safety?
that we had discussed? Is that what you're talking about, Kathy?
That we have discussed, the new positions, they were all going to go to public safety. There was a jail deputy, transport, communications, cook.
That's not official.
New positions, jail deputy, transport, communications, cook, and then a merit deputy. And they were all going to go to lit, public safety. Is that done?
No, it's not done. Those were requested in the general fund. So there was also an administrative assistant position that wasn't created by the commissioners, so we've got that. And I don't know if it makes any difference to you, but if we move the new positions to lit public safety, that's fine with you, and same difference.
The new ones that were approved, right?
Right, the
Not
ones for-
adding the
yeah.
two that were
Is that all right?
not approved.
We talked about doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That was my, yeah.
We don't have any more cuts then, do we? I mean,
That's
we
what
just
we-
helped out.
You but no.
There's a few $100,000.
No, that's more. We can use more.
What was that, 222447?
No, I didn't have any other cuts, but you've got more.
I think I can help you.
Okay.
And there was another one there was one deputy was approved,
Right.
and you, out of two, so I've got another 57,928 to cut there. Okay.
What else, Kathy?
That's all I had. It sounds like the sheriff has more, though.
Yeah. I guess, first of all, like everybody else has said, thank you for considering a 6% raise. But in the law enforcement side of it, just so you guys are aware, moving forward in years to come, we have longevity pay has become very popular. And currently, I believe the West Lafayette Police Department's like one hearing away from establishing that. It's to keep guys on. Lafayette already does it, so that'll leave Purdue. Chief Cox and I have had a conversation. That'll leave Purdue and us that does not have longevity. So that could be something we talk about next year, but just be aware that it's becoming very popular. As you know, it's hard to find good candidates right now, so we're doing everything we can to create a good environment, but we'll have to have that discussion later. But to help you with this cutting, if you go down to part-time, it says $60,000. We haven't been able to get, I mean, we've had some people come in, they interview, and it doesn't work out. Why don't we cut that to $30,000? And hopefully when we go through this, we haven't had to come back to you in 2.5 years and ask for more money. So hopefully we can continue that trend. What was the other? my contacts are not working. The training up there, I had you add that back in, right? Because by law, we
Yes.
can't leave it at zero.
Right.
Cut the fugitives. Can you cut it to 10 grand, the mileage, 3210? The reason being, I don't foresee us going very far anymore. You know what I mean? It's just, it's been totally different. Miscellaneous supplies, last year it was at zero for this year, and now it's asking for 40,000. And you look, I think those are those supply accounts you can move stuff from within. So what if we cut that to 30? And then the rest of it, I don't know how do we cut that stuff, because it's all utilities and contracts and things that were already tied in. But hopefully that'll help.
Right. And the 3190 account, the other professional services, that's for your quality med, and they have increased their prices for this year, so that's why you're seeing the increase that you're seeing this year.
Yeah, and I'm trying, Lisa sent Scroggins, the owner, sent us all an email, and I'm going through this searching like crazy, and it won't come up. So I don't know if that's a help desk problem, Kent. But anyway, Lisa and I have been texting, trying to get that explanation for you as to why it went up, but it's a service that's gone up.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
You want to move on? Anything in the jail?
Well, go
ahead, Bob.
Sheriff retirement, that's always kind of a guess, and actually, I'm saying more. What we got, the recommended from McCready and Keene was 1.375 million. And then what we use out of the service fee fund, and then we did put some in lit public safety for the merit officers that are over there. So I think this should be 1,269,722. All the parts that we then have will add up to the total that we owe. Oh, now wait a minute. Now that would be, I'm saying they would, and we may change that again if we're going to move those other ones to lit public safety, my other little note there. So I may be adjusting this later before we're all done, but right now that's what we've got.
The repair and maintenance of buildings, how does that transfer with our maintenance department? Do we?
Like with Tony?
Yeah, with Tony.
Well, it's what we have, and if we have something that needs fixed, we take it right out of ours. And I think the most recent, there was a boiler or something we had to change that we took out of our budget.
Budget to
Yeah, it doesn't go
outsiders.
through Tony.
Right. You didn't go through Tony on that.
No, we go through him
But
for everything, but if
he
we have the
approves
money
to
for
go
it, we
somewhere
pay
else,
it. Yeah.
outside, job it.
Yeah.
Anything on the jails? Anything on the jail side?
No, I think we
I didn't
figured out
think
why
we
the
had
utilities and
anything,
all
but I
that's-
was wanting to check. Kathy, did you have any notes there? Okay.
Is that it?
Do we want to run through 911 now? Page 53?
Page 53 that I don't have in front of me. And Captain Hangy is at Lawrence PD today. Oh, hey, thanks.
Kent's
I didn't even
helping
send
you
the
out.
help desk. Appreciate it.
Help desk is helping.
In regards to 911, we had a discussion last year of changes between all the different agencies in the county. Could you give us an update as to where we are?
Well, we're still with where the other agency, LPD is the only agency that's not with us. And they're still working with, and Commissioner Brown's helping with that, finalizing to cut out that contract with Central Square. Hopefully that'll be done here in a few months. And you had asked before what that does, is costing us each month, and I think what I'm hearing from Captain Hangy, it's hard to say exactly if it's costing us anything because they're still trying to finalize the end agreement.
Is Lafayette paying their portion of
Yeah, they
whatever
all-
has to be done
yeah,
on
they all
their
pay their
side?
portion, yeah.
Okay. That was the main question. I
Yeah,
think
one of
we
the
had.
issues, and Commissioner Brown can help me if I'm wrong, is we own the data, it's figuring out a place to put it. That was
That
one of the
is,
things that came up.
Yeah, that is part of the issue. We've got these, what I would call legacy software packages that we've got to close out, and Doug has those contracts right now, and those have to be in place because, well, up until just a few months ago, everybody was using it, but primarily now it's just Lafayette Police Department. Their Axon RMS, I believe, is going to launch tail end of this year. 911, their Axon 911 product, we don't know when that is going to launch, but for the purpose of 911 funding, at some point in time, they're going to have a bill that comes due for software related to taking those emergency calls through their platform, and clearly Tippecanoe County 911 funds will be on the hook for that. And we don't have any idea what that's going to involve in terms of cost. We would hope that it's going to be comparable to what the other agencies in the county are spending right now for the platform that they're on. But I think it sounds like everything is fully migrated to the new products, with the exception of what Lafayette is doing, and unfortunately, their situation has us all tied to the legacy system right now.
Yes. Yeah, I think the only hang-up now is they're still entering information about maps. That's the only thing I'm aware of. I do not know the answer to that one. Tracy, do you have the answer to that?
I'm sorry, I was looking at some numbers. What
That
was it?
consultant fee of 105,000, I don't,
Give me a line number, sir.
oh, sorry, 3140, 883 on the far left.
I guess I'm not sure. Rob prepared the budget, and I wasn't
Yeah, and
hands-on
I
with
don't
that
know,
this
and
year.
he's, again,
I know
he's
that
away.
line has been there for a while. It would have paid when we had 911 system strategy built up a couple of years ago. That was paid out of that.
I'll get you an answer. But that's what I mean, I'll have to get you an answer. I don't know if that's something that's in there because of the transferring over, changing systems, but I'll get you an answer.
Could that be related to data importer migration
I
from
think
your new
it has to
vendor?
do with that and when they came down here for the extra training. But I'll double check with Captain Hange here in a second. And knowing my chief deputy, he's back there sending an email right now. I'm just guessing.
The other professional services, 3190, that's gone up a little bit, about 200 or so. What does that cover?
Yeah, that's got to be in on that. And let me ask him about that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the two people that have those exact answers that prepared it are not in the office today.
I would guess that,
Hello.
whoa. I would guess that being a big number, that could very well be
As
our
well.
networking for 911, the monthly fee that we pay to. Is that Motorola? So it looks like Motorola, the Motorola contract is in that $1 million.
Okay.
So that is the annual lease for the radio system that's shared by all the area law enforcement agencies, and the annual maintenance agreement as well. Yeah, those are the big ones, the two big ones that make up better than half of that.
Capital outlay equipment, I mean, that's gone up quite a bit as well. Basically.
Yeah, what we're going through there, we have a situation, that's ours and West Side's, correct? That capital outlay, that's the upgrading to the equipment in our dispatch center and the console for West Lafayette, isn't it?
I'm not sure that, I talked to Captain Haynes last week. I'm not sure that that is reflected in the 2022 budget yet.
Okay. I'll check with him. I thought that was put in there to upgrade our, if you walk into our dispatch center, things are broke. They need to be fixed and upgraded.
Okay, anything else?
This is very minor, but again, my workers' comp, I'm coming to like 1,400. And I don't know, with this budget, you know, it's self-contained, you're using your own expenses. It seems like, at least with the employees they've got, health insurance is a higher number. They just put in the same thing we had last year. We only used 4,000 the first half of the year. We got 17,000. It's not a big deal. You can leave it alone, or could probably lower it. But it doesn't really make any difference.
Cut it back to 8,500?
And you just never know about if it changes people. If we go from somebody with employee only to family, you know, you can be, 17,000 is not even enough for one person on the family plan for the county share that.
Then you want to leave it? I don't care. Okay, we'll leave it. All right, we're at a break. We'll pick up with community corrections immediately after at 1:45.
Sheriff, the elected official salary, I had a couple people tell me that that number wasn't right, so lowering that for 143,955, just for your information. And that's 90% of the prosecutor's salary.
Okay, thank you. All right, community corrections. How much are you cutting, Jason?
0.
2.9 million?
If I had 2.9 million to cut, we'd be in good shape.
Ben, I know that you had a couple of notes or questions.
Yep, so we, Jason, Kevin, and I talked, and all in all, we had a question regarding utilities going up, to about double versus what was budgeted. Jason, you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, we just, I had Christina run our electric numbers, and they're just higher. And so we're just asking for that increase to help cover that cost. We can knock that down half of what we're asking, if you'd like.
What would be enough to cover expenses as best as you can estimate?
If we knocked it down to 20.
Okay. And then 3190, professional services, other, I believe, if memory serves, a contract with somebody.
Total court services, so they do our electronic monitoring, drug testing, case management side of the house, and so that's an anticipation of their, just an increase in their fees as we continue to build on that platform.
Okay. That's all I had regarding.
Yeah, and then just the 3,000, the 2990, that increase was just, I mean, like every other supply, there's supply costs that are going up, so it's just a slight increase in that.
I'm good with where it's at.
Okay. I think unless there are other questions from council. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Now, skipping over to prosecutor.
We do have some changes to make to this one. The impact, correct me if I'm wrong in what I am saying. On the prosecutor's fund, or the 2.988 on the salaries full-time employees can actually be lowered to $100,000. So 2.888707.
Now, where is that being shifted to, or how's that happening? Just
It's basically, most of my.
you hit your button.
Hi.
Welcome.
Oh, this is nice.
Yes.
Basically, when the positions become open, especially for the lawyers, my hiring season, even though we try to recruit year-round, is May through October. So if someone leaves in the fall, likelihood I'm not going to fill that position for the first 5 to 8 months of the coming year. So in the past, I think Roland used to figure this out and tell me, hey, every year you're like 100,000 you could probably take off the top because of how you hire. That's not to say we don't try to recruit. We're kind of like the same like law enforcement. I'm now recruiting in 15 different law schools in 5 states, trying to recruit. The ability to attract young professionals to Tippecanoe County is at a crisis mode. And I know the public defender will probably come up and talk to you a little bit more about this. We cannot get applications for attorneys. We're bleeding attorneys right now. I've lost, I think, Amy, you've lost 7 or 8 or 9 this year, 5. I've lost 6 this year already. A lot of it's due to COVID, where I think people put their lives on hold for 12 months to 18 months, especially young professionals. And now, with the economy becoming open, they're seeking jobs outside it. The ones that I'm losing out of the criminal justice field. They're going to other traditional law firms where they know they're only working 8 to 4:30 or 5. They're not working 55 hours a week. Their quality of life is improved. Their pay is tremendously more, and they also get bonuses. Most of these, when they go into private practice, they're getting, just to hire them, they're getting a hiring bonus. I mean, we all see that. I think McDonald's and Wendy's is giving like $1,000 or $1,500 sign-on bonus. But they're going to law firms that are giving a sign-on bonus, and they're given a yearly bonus for performance. In the legal field, some law firms, it's usually 5%. My son works for a firm. His is 10% of his average pay. That's what his bonus is a year. So we're getting very, very competitive. The final thing that's really hurting us here across the state is we really only have 3 law schools in Indiana. One's Notre Dame. Most graduates from Notre Dame do not look at or want a profession in the criminal justice field. They're looking at those big firms in the larger cities making 6 figures plus. IU Bloomington is our next law school. Again, most of those graduates, they're a tier 1 law school, which means they're in the top 20 in the country. Most of those graduates are not looking for a career in criminal justice. That leaves us IU Indy for the entire state. To explain how bad this is in the state of Indiana right now, just on the prosecution side, currently in IPAC, there's 15 prosecutors' office having jobs opening. Some of the starting pay now is up to $88,000 to $92,000 a year. We're at 72. In those 15 offices, the demand is approximately 60 open positions, just on the prosecution side. I know the public defender across the state, they're the same thing. We don't have the numbers coming into the workforce, and we do not, this is a highly stressful position on either side of the equation. I was a defense attorney. It's kind of like a doctor. You could be a general practitioner, which is a very noble and a very rewarding position. It doesn't usually have call. They work their office hours. Or you can be a surgeon who's on call, and your hours are unpredictable. Trial attorneys are like surgeons. We're on call. We have an unbelievable amount of hours that we work a week, and people are not, the stress is just overwhelming right now. We need, and I've talked to both, and I appreciate Lisa and Jody talking to me, we really need to look at, I believe, what we're doing with our office probation. I'm sure, Dave, you have the same situation with hiring and retaining probation officers. This community is a wonderful place to live. We have a high quality of safety. We have a very efficient justice system. Insurance rates are low. People come here to work here. But we really are starting to, at the lower level, boots on the ground, we're starting to have cracks in the system here. We need to have I would suggest a committee of a couple of you, one commissioner, and Amy and myself, or someone from the public defender's office. We need to start looking at what are we going to do to attract high-quality professionals that keep our quality of safety, because here's the bottom line. The bottom line is this. The police can go out and make all the arrests in the world. If you don't have people in the courtroom to do the job, to finish it, to get it across the end zone, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, again, who's your surgeon? Who do you want doing surgery on you? So I'm just kind of sounding the warning bell here. We cannot continue to keep up with the pressure and the stress and our two offices with the manpower shortages or shortages in labor that we are experiencing based upon the pay. We need to become creative. We need to increase our pay structure. We need to figure out, are we going to have sign-on bonuses? Are we going to be able to give yearly bonuses based upon performance? But I have attorneys right now, due to the backlog of COVID, who are working 110 hours plus per pay period. They won't last. I have more people now on my staff that are seeking mental health counselors than ever before. So that's the news on the front. So the $100,000, Kevin, getting back to your question, is just basically rotation of open slots and the number of slots going forward into 2022 that are going to be very difficult to fill because I'm competing against other prosecutors and I'm competing. I've actually had 2 young attorneys in the last 8 months say they don't even want to be lawyers anymore because just not what they signed up for. And I don't know if that's how they, they go to law school thinking one thing. Doug's kind of smiling over there. Maybe they should teach a class in law school. What does it mean to be a lawyer? Anyway, so I'm sorry to kind of go on a side road, but I really want to bring this to your attention. I know we have public safety money. I know there's ARF money out there. I know there's COVID relief money. But we really want to keep the quality of our justice system the way it is. And we need to start looking at some of these hard questions. The other thing I would say this, I appreciate the process of outsourcing to Wagner, Early, and Shealy. I understand that's probably a good thing, but if we could somehow make it a quicker time frame, sometimes it takes months and months to get something back, and then it takes a month or months to get the hearings, and by the entire progress is from start to where you have an immediate need for a position, unlike private practice or private sector, you just hire somebody, right? I mean, for us, and sometimes it takes, I don't know, I've had it take as much as 9 months or a year. So I think, and it's not, I think everyone's doing what they can to make it work. I just think we sometimes, and I've been doing this 15 years, sometimes our desire to watch every dollar, sometimes we lose sight of that. We do a very good job of watching what we spend in this community. But I think the community's grown, the needs have changed, and I think we need to start looking at how can we come up with, and like the coroner did, that 3- and 5-year plan. I've been doing that for 15 years with different plans. Anyway, questions on the budget?
Pat, you mentioned that we can't keep these people and they'll just leave and go. Where do they go?
The ones I've left, 5 have gone to private practice, to private firms because of more money, stability of hours, the pay structure, the bonus, the yearly performance. That's the number one they go to. Some have gone to other prosecutors' office. One went over there because that's where his hometown is. Mainly we lose in the private practice. And we don't expect to retain 100% into this field. But it'd be nice to have when they walk in after 2 years and say, I just had my second child, it costs more for my wife to work than for her to stay at home, or I have one person who may stay at home themselves because the cost of daycare is outlandish right now because COVID put a lot of them out of business. So, they can't keep up. They're paying student loans. I have people on staff who owe $140,000 in law school loans. Their monthly, when they had to pay, when it comes back online, they're paying $1,100 a month for their student loan, on top of an apartment or trying to have 2 children, a car. They just can't subside. So they're trying to do the best for their family. And these are ones I have a chance at retaining. These are ones who do enjoy the rewards of the criminal justice system, but it's just not giving them a sustainable wage based upon all of the expenses they have to get where they are right now. I mean, what is that, John? $1,000 a month right now at 3% on the mortgage, what is that, about $200,000 plus mortgage, $250,000 mortgage they're paying just for a student loan on top of their actual mortgage? So these are things that we face and the challenges that we're seeing going forward with trying to retain more people.
What would you say would be a range of pay that you would feel confident to keep them and retain them?
I think we need to look at the entry-level wages, and help me out back there, but I think if we could start right out of the box at 80,000, 80 to 95 for the level 6 of misdemeanors, and probably 90 to 105 for major crimes. That's what you're looking at. Major crimes includes murder. We have more murder trials now pending than ever in the history of this county. We're at 14 pending murder cases and 8 attempted murder. Again, these are the toughest cases you can get. One deputy prosecutor cannot do 14 murder cases in a year. That's just, you're putting 4 to 6 to 8 weeks of your life in every murder trial. And those aren't 8-hour days. So for that person who's doing these murder trials to get like 82,000, and then you have someone doing something else and making, they're making 4,000 more than the next person in my office, they'll go to Allen County where they pay 105,000 for homicide level 1 people. I mean, they know inside this area of expertise what their value is, and they will seek that. So basically what we become here in our community, if we have the resources, I think we do, to be competitive, is we basically become the training grounds for some of these other communities where the best and brightest we have, they go somewhere else for. And I understand 70,000 to 85 is $15,000 more a year, and that is a lot of money. But what's it cost us to keep hiring and training and trying to get them up, and then they leave again? It's not a good model. It's actually an inefficient model to follow. And just because we're government doesn't mean we can't do things just as good as other people. I don't accept that.
What do you think the answer is? I mean, just
more competitive wages.
But how do we get to that? I mean, every department that comes in here, almost, or every other one, they face the same problems, and I understand that. But what do we do? Just keep raising taxes?
No, I think
it's not. I don't want to be like Chicken Little. The sky's falling, but after a while, everybody's needing more personnel.
Some of it is you have to triage and prioritize what is important to a community. To be blunt.
Yeah.
Is public safety one of the most important things in the community? Well, every opinion poll we've seen for the last decade in America, that's probably one of the, if that's not the top one, is like the top 2. Do you feel safe in your community? We do in this community. Do we want to lose that? No, we do not. Are we willing to pay to keep it?
Can you draw from lit?
Yes, I can. Public safety.
We can. Can it go to wages though?
Yes.
Can it go to buildings? Because I think this down the street here, didn't LPD, that 45 million, did they grab some money from lit?
I don't know, but that's City of Lafayette gets their own.
But they got lit.
Right. Yeah. But that's a good income stream, and that's one of the reasons I think we explored that was the foresight of 2 or 3 years ago. We thought, based upon that there were going to be needs coming forth challenging. We're a growing community. Crime, the one we have, is some of it is getting more serious. We had, one or two homicide a year. Now we're up to, unfortunately, 6 to 8 a year. We have 8 attempted murder cases pending right now. That's it. And you want the best person up there to do it. It's the World Series of our business, so to speak, or the Super Bowl. So the public safety income tax would be a revenue stream that we can use to possibly explore, not next year. I know it's too late for 2022, but again, I had these conversations with my 2 council reps. Can we sit down and start thinking about what we do? Because I'll be recruiting I'm already recruiting 3L, third-year law students, to come start working next summer for us. I could, if we come up with a strategy for 2023 budget, these are things we can start implementing, not only to raise up what we're doing with our current staff, who are doing an unbelievable job and being very stressed, but also to recruit and be more competitive. Thank you for the question.
This is just a quick, I guess, question, comment, and this goes to HR. When we look at, when people leave our employment, and and Pat says, looking at prioritizing, is it public safety? Where are people, why are people leaving? Do we do exit interviews with our employees and then gather information, and then we can say, okay, it's wages, or it's benefits, or why are people leaving us?
Not always. We do on a number of the employees, especially if they request it. But a lot of times, we get the paperwork after they're already gone. So the ones that, a lot of them come through with like relocation, and there have been a few that have gone to other private sector positions. One recently that did have an exit interview with me was just a little bit burnout on the clientele that they had to work with. I think that's generic enough, but yet letting you know. So.
We do our own exit interviews too. We talk to them, and that's one of the questions I ask. Congratulations, where are you going? What's their pay? What did you like? And we ask those questions. Tell us, what did you like best in this office? What did you not like doing in this office? What do you think you would pay? Well, they talk to their classmates, especially the younger ones who are at other law schools and where they went, or other prosecutor's office, or just in private practice. So they do keep track of that. And it's amazing that the individuals, the attorneys who come in, they do. I just had one this week do it, Monday. And they're very open and candid. They tell me about their wages, they tell me where they're going, what they like, what they hope in the new position. But, that's the top three things, is the amount of hours they work. Again, my attorneys work on average 55 hours a week. They get paid 37.5 based on our caseload. And we can't stop it. I mean, we have no control of how much of the cases coming in. Crime doesn't stop. It's here every day. So that's what they look at.
What's your salary? It's not 37.
Our entry-level pay for this year will start at, I got 72 and change, and it goes up to 9.
1,032 for your D felonies. For your D felonies and misdemeanors, 76,629 for your felonies.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisors is 83,855, and division chiefs are 89,334.
Again, felonies include everything from murder down to, level 6 can be domestic battery, can be a theft. So to tell to someone who's doing these felonies that, in theory, they should be up 85 to 100 for the responsibility they're doing. This is complicated litigation. I mean, even then, that would be something to start holding them. We're also trying, with our staff, we're trying to figure out how do we make this a professional career thing. We have more now that are hitting our 5-year mark than before, but I think it's the quality of the individual and how much they want to do something to keep our community safe, and their focus is on helping society in general. And that kind of helps them versus the finances. But of those ones that are hitting 5-year, I would say this, only one of them is married. The other 4 are single. So you throw on making $76,000 married and have a child or 2 and trying to have a home, it's a challenge for them to do that. And there's no hope. I can't tell them they're going to make more. I can say, hey, your pay range, I can take you up to $88,000. And some of my people this year that came up in our discussion, you're moving people up in your pay grids quite rapidly. I go, I have no choice. They're going to leave. I go, I got to keep showing them there is a financial road pathway to maybe afford something else in your private life. One of my attorneys came in and talked to me a month ago. 2 young children were, they're going to start school. They're in pre-K. He goes, these school costs are just, I don't know what we're doing. His wife is fully employed, and so these are challenges they're seeing out there. And when they went to law school, they really thought, 7 years of education and student loans. And some of these individuals who are married and my other lawyers, their spouses were still paying off their student loans. So they have two student loan payments on top of their living expenses. So, John, to answer your question, yeah, I do think if we could bump up 10 to 15,000 these pay, I think it would be, the only two things are going to happen. A, it's going to show it's right. We're going to have people stay longer and say, yeah, I do, this is what I need to stay longer. Or B, we're not going to spend any more money because that's not going to be the solution. They're going to be leaving and they'll never hit that cap, that extra money.
Are they allowed to moonlight? I mean, do jobs on the side?
They're not allowed to practice any other law.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
As a full-time prosecutor in the state of Indiana, you cannot do any other type of employment because of possible conflict. I mean, if I had a full-time DPA, well, number one, they're putting in 55 hours a week, but even they could do something else. There's the ethical issue there of, you know, I get hired because you think I'm a prosecutor, therefore I'm going to have a better insight on your divorce with the judge because I'm in front of that judge every day. The lines get blurred, and it's just not allowed. Only one county in the state has part-time prosecutors, and that's Kokomo.
Now, one thing we could, if we want to talk about what John was talking about, maybe paying some out of the lit public safety.
Right.
And that's certainly, okay, we've got prosecutors in there already. But if you wanted to just say, give them $200,000 raise overall as a group, we would really need to move probably $400,000 of salaries to lit public safety to break even, because also for whatever Pat pays his people, we have pay parity with the public defender's office. So if we increase their salaries, we're also increasing the public defender's salaries, just to, you know, and we may have the ability to do that in public safety, but we need to make that a priority, you know, because that really is the only way we can do it. We can't just afford to give, you know, gigantic pay raises to prosecutors and public defenders in the general fund without some adjustment somewhere else.
So when's that conversation going to take place?
That's why I think we need to put this committee together that Pat is suggesting. I think it would be really beneficial and have them get together, each of the departments get together as a team and come up with solutions and ideas to present to us. And then we can make a better educated decision on what we should do in 2023 rather than trying to make that decision now.
So what are we getting lit, 4 million or something? So if
It's going to be, this year, it's going to be 3.9 million.
Okay.
We had $4 million last year, so we get back, you know, so we do have a little bit of leeway.
So you haven't dispersed any of that yet?
Well, yeah, we pay, we have a budget request of 3 million.
Okay. So how many is this 200,000 serve? How many you got there?
Well, I'm just picking that number out of the
But that's a pretty good number.
Is it?
I'm
How
just
many you
thinking
got?
10,000 times 27 positions, 270, but.
Okay. Close.
We just have to make it a priority in the lit public safety going forward that we want the prosecutor, we can't put public defenders in here, but so we'd have to put more prosecutor money in there than what we want to pay them, because we're going to have to pay the public defenders more.
So understand that in what he's asking for right now, the 288, there's already the 6% increase. There's also some longevity increases, and then there's some merit type money in there as well. So there is money in what this 288 for increases, salary increases for the current staff.
But he's pretty much maxed them out. Now you've moved up to the max, so now after this year, he doesn't have this ability in 23, so.
Right, well, that's why
we do need to maybe do something, yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we do need to put together some sort of a work group to get that done.
I appreciate
Evaluate
that,
it.
yes.
Okay.
Well, that takes care of the prosecutor, but we got so many other needs that.
Well, it's going to have to be a holistic look at it. It's not going to be able to look at just your department in a silo, or we're going to end up with
Well, the commissioner's here,
repercussions
so-
elsewhere, so.
Right. So Pat, and I know you mentioned who you thought should be on that committee. Can you say that one more time of the departments that you think should
Well-
all be involved?
even though the public defender's not part of the public safety lit fund, they should be at the table because our two departments are the largest players in the justice system in Tippecanoe County. I think Dave Hollinger, I think he needs to be a part of it. I think the sheriff does, and I think community corrections. And do you guys have any other suggestions? So I'm not the only one putting input on this. That's about the 5 big components. I would say those are the 5.
Okay, the 3.9 that we got, have we already dispersed that out?
That's what we will be receiving in 2022.
When?
We get it every month.
12
we-
divided into, that's how much we
Yeah.
get every month, okay.
Right, we get that every month, yeah.
So that's when it starts, January of 2022?
Well, no, it started a couple years ago. We have got,
So what are we doing with that money?
well, we're paying for salaries. We have some sheriff deputies.
I just want to hear.
We have different sheriff employees. Well, here, like, it's up on the screen here. I can show you what we've got.
Page 45, John, shows you the budget.
We've got some, like, jailers from the sheriff's department.
That's cool.
We have merit deputies. And then we have some of the benefits that go along with that. Community corrections there's $321,000 of requests there.
Okay.
The prosecutor, he's got, I believe it's 3 or 4, something. 4. Probation, I know we've got the one person that works in court services is put in there, and then the insurance. So we had requests of 2.9 million. Now we've moved some of the sheriff new positions into here, so I'm at 3.2 million right now, which I was trying to match that up with my projected revenue. Now we receive the actual revenue for next year, and so it's up higher, but we're kind of to the point that we can pretty much spend all of the money we receive in public safety because we've got a good enough cushion to go forward. We got $4 million at the end of June. So, and every year that's going to go up by a considerable amount of money. And so if we just have a priority being some personnel on the prosecutor and public defender side, I think that would work fine.
I want to thank you for listening to me. It's kind of been therapeutic for me a little bit, so thank you for that. And I really look forward, going forward, if we can have this committee to look at the whole entire package. I mean, I know we've been adding people here and there, but I think if we get a kind of like a goal, it would be really useful. And I value hearing the input from the other department heads or electeds that have a stake in our community safety. Thank you.
And another thing that Pat is going to be losing is this law enforcement warrant fund. That money is getting down to nothing, and you have employees that are paid out of there, so you're going to have to find spaces for them.
That money will be gone. That was from 2013 where we got 1.7 million, and we've been funding staff positions off that. The other thing you see in the projections, one more thing, is my infraction deferral, which are traffic tickets where people can divert, and that goes in the fund. That fund is going to hit a record low of only about 50,000 income this year. And again, it goes back to community safety. The fund is generated because officers they work patrol, they run traffic, they write traffic tickets. In 2008, we hit a high of almost 14,000 traffic tickets issued in Tippecanoe County. Last year, even though it was COVID, we only wrote 3,800. The year before that, without COVID, we wrote 5,000. What this shows from a system view is the police they still want to do traffic. They don't have time to do traffic because I have two former sheriffs and a sheriff in this room. They're out there answering calls. They're going from call to call. When they're doing a call, they can't run traffic. So that fund is almost going to go down to be and Bob's good at projections, but it's not looking. It's in critical condition. And I pay a lot of my office. Traditionally, I paid employees out of it, staff members. I pay office supplies, and I can't make up the difference. We were pulling in on average about $200,000 a year. So I'm losing 75%. So just letting you know, but that's a sign of what's going on in our community.
Are there any of the other funds that we need to look at for Pat?
So when the one fund, I think, All right, I can't remember which one it was. It was page 57. Let me see. I had a question. No, that wasn't it. 60. Okay, so your law enforcement warrant fund, that was the big one that we
That's correct.
received in 2013, and you've budgeted zero for, obviously, for revenue. That's going to be pretty much, you have $30,000 at the end of this year. So are we going to need to look to move this to lit for next year? 23, and then even potentially, if you use all this, coming back in 22 for an additional appropriation. Okay.
Right, and I discussed that with Lisa and Jody about that fund. And we've been very fortunate to have that. That
Right.
essentially saved general fund $1.7 million over the last 8 years. But it was nice to have it, and we're sorry to see it go, but it's.
Talking about that fund, now just bringing that up, the request seemed higher than what we could allow, and Pat sent over a revision of that, so I do have different numbers here now, that if the council is at least aware of what I changed. He took out like part-time, overtime, and made some other adjustments. There's gasoline and oils, and anyway, we knocked out about $90,000 of his request, because we just didn't have enough cash to be able to support the 303. I started with 331 the end of the year, and we still had, well, there's $200,000 of unspent appropriation that I think we should be okay with this revision, because there are some that he's not going to spend all the money. Some lines.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay. Public defender.
What page is that on?
There, yeah, I guess. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was skipping over ancillary. Do you have anything?
There's really not much
Nothing?
change. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Then I just mentally just was headed on down. Okay. Public defender.
Amy, so a lot of your things, there's not too much change, but mainly on the staffing side. Can you take a minute and explain the part-times, the full-times that you talked to us about?
So I think, okay, so what's happened in our office is we have, since about 2019, our conflict division has had significant turnover. We've actually lost 6 people very recently, but we were able to hire 1. In the last few months, we have had no applications for part-time attorneys, and the ones prior to that we had 3 that we did not think were appropriate hires and chose not to hire them. So we started looking at how can we do things differently. As much as having the part-time attorneys is, at least in my opinion, the best option, because they are separate. They have to be separate in the conflict division. They have a lot of their own staff that answers the phones and does some of the work, which saves the county money, plus they have their own offices. But what's happened over the period of time is we've saturated the Lafayette market, Tippecanoe County market. We just keep moving farther and farther away to retain attorneys. And what happens is they burn out because they're driving an hour, hour and a half. The last attorney I just lost was driving an hour and a half here and an hour and a half home. She was offered a job in another county that was a half an hour from her home for about the same price. And she said, Amy, this is kind of a no-brainer for me. And I said, I understand. So what we looked at was changing our structure, and we spoke with our ethics consultant in combining 2 part-time positions into a full-time and start trying to have a full-time conflict attorneys
in the conflict division. That comes with a lot of issues from an ethics standpoint. We've consulted at least 3 to 4 times with our ethics consultant. He finally gave us some plans of how to do it. And so we decided we need to do something, because sending these cases to private attorneys at $90 an hour is very expensive, and it's really not. It's great representation for the client because they have less cases, but it is extremely expensive for the county and really not, in my opinion, the most economical way to handle our cases. So what we want to do is we want to combine our two part-time public defender positions into a full-time. And from a cost standpoint, I think the costs are somewhat similar. You lose a little bit on the caseload they can take, because when you move to full-time, you have to add perf, which adds quite a chunk of change into a salary. So that's what we did, is to take 4 of our part-time positions and made 2 full-time positions, actually. And then we have 2 contract positions. One was with Legal Aid, who did our CHINS TPR work. One is our 4D, and we want to take those 2 contracts, make that a full-time position, and then leave about $30,000 for the CHINS TPR to try to find an attorney who can do that more part-time, because Legal Aid decided that the time was too much for them to continue on their own mission. So that's kind of what we want to do, is to make 3 full-time positions and try to see if we can staff those, because we can't staff the part-time positions. We feel like we have to try something to try to obtain staff and not pay $90 an hour.
What would be the annual salary of a full-time?
The highest amount is like $89,553 or something. I don't have the exact number. Yeah. So they would need to be in the felonies. So you're looking at between 76,629 and 89,855, because they do F1 through F5 felonies and murder cases as well.
Now, Amy, I was marking the changes that I thought you sent me, and I didn't hear you say anything about dues. Did you say lower that? At least I put a note down to 18,000?
Yeah,
it's down to 18.
Lower to 18.
Okay, I didn't think I heard you say it, to make sure.
That was our mistake. We had encumbered some money, and when we looked at it, we looked at the total amount, which was $24,000, but we had encumbered. So, yeah, no, $18,000 will work.
So her all the changes she makes, it's almost a net change of nothing. It's down a little bit, so.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're up to probation. Anything there? Jody and Lisa?
No, I didn't have anything, but
Do you have some spiel you want to give to us, Dave?
I'd like to thank my wife for ironing my shirt this morning. Phyllis, I was thinking about this when I was listening to the prosecutor and also the public defender, Amy, talk. I think that I can't remember in my 29 and some odd years of service and probation work the level of tension or stress or just people burned out really hard in the business associated with criminal justice. And I missed our sheriff's talk, but I'm confident that he probably reflected something similar, which is really tough right now. From a probation standpoint, we had I won't say it was a nice lull, but we had a lull last year because the courts slowed down, and so our business coming down from the upper courts or up from the lower courts slowed down a little bit. It's picking up now. Jury trials are just taking off, and with that, we're continuing to see an increase in. We're working with people that are in distress, frankly, a lot of distress, both substance abuse and just personal distress. And so I do my best to take care of my colleagues and my coworkers and encourage them to smile and do their best every day, and also to recognize that they need to take care of themselves, because it's all of us, but in particular, in working with people that are in distress can become distressful. So I have a large department, and I know that it's expensive, and I expect a lot out of each one of my employees. I try to utilize funding as best I can, seek out funding both from the Department of Corrections, from elsewhere. We're doing the best we can. I anticipate that our caseloads are going to continue to increase as business keeps coming from the courts. I am confident that my team is doing the best they can with what they have. Their caseloads may be down a little bit, but at the same time, we're expecting them to do more with that. And I've encouraged all of them to remember that it's not if, but when that wave comes, and it's starting now. We're starting to see it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the budget we proposed. Thank you to my colleagues that came over to visit us in the courthouse. I don't know if there's any
questions?
Any questions?
The only thing I had on your user fees.
Yes.
In the health insurance, I think that one is under. You requested $33,000. The first 6 months of this year, you used $24,000.
I think I can explain that.
Can you? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
If I can't, I'll let you explain it, Bob. But so we had one of the funding resources we use is the Indiana Department of Corrections. There's a grant fund, and I had an employee that was her salary and medical was being covered under that fund, but there was a period of time where it was exhausted. It was through the first 6 months, and so we had to utilize monies out of the probation user fee fund to cover that expense. I believe that's the correct explanation.
So you think 33,000 is enough? I don't want to give you a budget that's going to be 15,000 short. If it's 24,000, then we're talking about $50,000 a year.
Yes, and I'm taking a little bit of a gamble, and that's assuming that I even receive funding for the next year to cover both that position and also some additional expenses associated with some supervision levels of our clients. But for right now, I'm willing to accept that risk, and if we need to move some monies over, we will.
And I did. You weren't here this morning. I don't know if you were listening to any of our discussions. That there were some changes to workers' comp, and this is one of those funds that we've always budgeted money for workers' comp, and we've never used any of it. Well, now it's going to be a self-insurance fund, so we're going to be using it. And at least the calculation that we had, you had submitted 1804. We think it's going to be 3,100 based on your type of employees. So I would suggest we change your 1804 to 3,100. Not a major change, but it's...
Is that under the 2000 fund, the workers' comp?
Yes, yes. The 9410, 1910, 3,100.
Got it. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I missed this morning's discussion about that. Were there
Any
any
other
other
questions? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay. Magistrate. You have any notes, ladies? Anything changed?
So she was here this morning. We didn't have any changes.
It's not much there, so I was just wanting to check. Okay. 4D Commissioner,
I could echo the same sentiments, but basically, no changes here, is not a whole lot. They're just a little increase in part-time, just depending on as needed. But no changes overall.
okay, thank you, Ben. All right, Circuit Court.
Same thing, there's not a whole lot of changes, but one thing that we need to think about possibly for 2023 budget is right now, a lot of the courts are using Zoom or WebEx, which is currently being paid for the subscription through the state. They're not sure how long that's going to be lasting, but it has been really beneficial for them to be able to have that capability to meet with clients, to do initial hearings, and so on. So this is something that we're going to have to keep in mind. And I'm not exactly sure what the exact cost of that subscription is, and we can certainly get that before, we really need it. But just wanted to make a point to say that that's something we're going to have to be prepared for possibly in 2023.
Okay, thank you. Made note of that. All right, Superior Court 1.
Again, no changes. I think the one thing, though, and you'll hear this for every court, is that evaluation services have been going up. So if you look, every court, that number is going to be a little bit higher than it was the year before. They're just having more mental health needs in the community, and I know Judge Person talked about how he's getting a lot more calls late at night about commitments, so it's serious in our community.
Anything on jury expenses that we can do for any of these as far as a jury pay fund? Bob?
One thing to look at, and up on page 58, I think it's 58, is the jury pay fund. The requests that we have are the same courts as what we had previously, the same amounts as what we had previously. But we have requests of like $34,000, and we're going to be taking around $20,000 in as revenue. So this fund, before too long, with that trend, we're going to be burning this cash down to nothing. I mean, if we could, it's not looking that promising for this budget, but to be able to reduce some of these down in jury pay fund and increase them in the general fund. Because we are, we've gone from like 54,000, 47,000 to 33,000. But we can certainly make it through another year, but we knew somewhere down the line we need to make some adjustments to that.
Well, I was just wanting to check because I saw those lines there on those two previous ones. Okay. Superior Court 2.
Basically the same thing.
I just happened to glance down to family counseling. What department does that fall in under? Huh? Superior 2? Okay.
Okay. We ready to move on to 4?
So this one, and Bob, I don't know if you, let me look real quick. We do need to increase the physician and psychiatric exam to 15,000. And that's, again, just like all the other courts, is the evaluation side of things. And I find interesting that they're listed differently in every court. I'm not sure why it's that way, but that needs to be increased because they didn't have anything in that. Another, just to bring this up, I know Judge Sandy wanted to add a part-time person, recorders, right, Lisa? Was there recorders? In which report, okay. Part-time person where he currently shares with Superior. Circuit. And he wanted to do that because he's assuming that with the circuit court increasing in cases that that court will be taking up more of that time of that person. But I know since we added Superior 7, it kind of alleviates some of the casework. So at this time, I don't think we need to look at adding that position for 4, especially since we brought Superior Court 7 on. But I do know that's something that he did want. He did not include it in the budget. It was through our conversations. But at this time, I don't think we need to add that. Did you have anything else, Lisa, on that?
This came from I don't know, somebody told me this. Maybe it was an email. 3190, other professional services, that should be 0?
Yes, yeah.
Uh-oh.
There it is. No, 3190. Yeah, I have it here.
Yes, I have it here. Yeah, I have
Okay. Superior 5? I guess I should hit my
Yeah.
button. Superior 5?
A few changes on that. On office supplies, bring that from 2,000 to 1,000. On 3140, consultants evaluations, 45,000 to 30,000. Other than that, that is the only changes.
Okay, thank you. Superior 6?
No changes, I don't have any.
The one thing I would like to say about Judge Morsi is, I know last year he was challenged with going back and doing things more efficiently because his staff was getting, or did have a lot of, I guess, overtime. And so he came to us asking for more overtime pay and such. So he did, I have to commend him, he did a great job going back when we did deny that request and really looking at his processes and structure and doing things more efficiently so that he did not have, him and his team did not have as much, really any overtime any longer. So he did a good job.
Good, thank you for noting that. Superior 7.
So the one thing, so this is the new court, with Judge Moore, he did think that maybe we could reduce the physician, the 3145 to 15. Still learning a lot since it is a new court, but.
How many employees in that court, too?
Pardon?
How many employees in that court?
No, there's more than that. I have to look. It's like three or four.
Oh, okay.
Four staff.
Including the judge?
Well, no, the judge gets paid separately.
The state, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Superior 3. Ben, Kathy?
No changes. The only question that, thank you, Ben. The only question that I think is still looming, and I think Ben alluded to it this morning, is because of this new law that's starting July 1st, where we house juveniles, where we cannot house them with adults. I know that looking back, there would have been 6 that this new law would have been applicable for the first 6 months of the year. I'm not sure where the funding needs to be placed, the line item for any additional housing that we may do. And I know that Judge Graham was going to talk with some of the other courts to figure this out and talk with you, Bob. And I don't know if we have a resolution. Okay, we'll communicate with Judge Graham before the end of the hearings.
Yeah, because essentially these are juvenile arrestees who cannot be housed in our current facilities here because of the sight and sound of an adult, but they have to be housed somewhere, and so we would be paying another entity to house our juveniles until they meet the judge and the process is completed. Typically, what they told us is the average length of stay is close to a year, at roughly $150 a day, I think. So when you start crunching numbers and looking at the total cost, it's pretty significant depending on the number of juveniles who may fit this particular group. A lot's unknown still. Judge Graham doesn't know if the state's going to reimburse or not, and other facilities don't have to take, our juveniles. So it's still a work in progress, but it is an expense that I think that we should anticipate or expect to have somewhere. So just as a FYI on that.
Okay, thank you. CASA.
Yes, a couple of changes, and Bob, can you share those on the screen? There was a misplacement of an employee's salary, and it was placed in the wrong category with the wrong line. There was a misplacement of a salary in the wrong line item, so we just need a little change. It amounts to $500 and some dollars, so if Bob could make those changes, otherwise that's it.
Okay. Do you make those? And Health Department, I see Amanda's still back there. Oh. We'll do highway next, because. Yeah, Amanda's walking up.
Sorry, guys,
Did-
I've got a clinic
yeah.
I have to get to, so.
Yes.
We met with Amanda and Kayla recently, and in short, pretty simplistically, they need everything they can get.
Yeah.
They're like many others, short-staffed and stress-bound beliefs. So, not that that's a reason for it. They do have reasonings for the budget, but there's nothing to really cut there.
No, and I'm not so sure we won't be asking for part-time.
Yep.
We will try to get that all grant funded, but if we cannot get it funded through grants, we will have to ask for part-time help.
Did health, it didn't fall into the lit, does it?
No.
I'm looking on 45, okay.
Nope, it does not.
Okay.
There is an increase in the software. Essentially, what they were told was that, we're looking at line item 3240 from what the net budget was in '21. The state was supposed to have their own software to do everything. It's not working the way it's anticipated to, so they still have a daily job to do. And with such, that we're going to continue with the current software options to do all the daily duties in which that they fall under and work with the community on.
It's our vital record software for birth and death certificates. The state has a drive program, but it is not working fully functional like they thought it would, so we have to keep our software, which is $4,000 a year. And hopefully we can do away with that at the end of next year. That's our truck lease.
That was a question we had too, John.
We don't have any
We were
bulldozers.
like, do you have like excavator? Thank you. Is there anything else general fund wise that we need to?
I have something to add that came up. I had 2 assignments at lunch,
Oh,
and one of
yes.
them was to check, Rebecca, you may know that Devin has moved on, and so that position has been vacant. We do have the results back. Rebecca spoke with me. What she wants to do is eliminate that deputy director and create a different position that would be, instead of being an exec 2, it would be a PAT 5. And the new position, excuse me, would be the residential and community-based service director. The committee still needs to meet on that, but I don't see any big roadblocks in having us save money like that. So normally when you have a vacancy like that, it's going to be someone from within. So going from what was budgeted at $78,040, that's going to go down to, we're going to say at the 5-year level of the PAT 5, $69,065. So that's a savings of $8,975 that you can take off of carry home. And then the second thing that I was asked to check on was the parks for their workers' comp. They do just have one workers' comp bill. They do have a total of 6 different things that they pay Mitchell Agency for, but only one of those is the work comp. So, and actually, what Kim gave them as the breakdown is $20,972. So that's really high based on, I think what she was doing was basing it on what we normally, because we normally pay like everything at once. So they are one of the higher, pays for the workers' comp, but you could probably get by with a lot less than that. I wasn't sure what Bob had in there. What did you have, Bob?
Well, they had requested 20,500.
That's probably why.
But now,
It could-
I can make that 0 because it's all going to get pulled out of the 9410.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So making that 0 isn't a problem on that side of it then?
No, because the way they're going to do it now is be moving it every payroll like we do for the other. And this was a very unique year in that we paid the bill and started the self-insurance fund. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you, Shirley.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else, Bob, that you had notes of that we needed to come back to?
Well, within the employee insurance, I
They're not
haven't made
insurance.
all of my adjustments there, but
Highways all.
the workers' comp amount there, the $561,704, that's what I believe that we think, or that was the premiums that we are expecting. But now some of these premiums are going to be paid by other funds. And so I think we can, seems like, we thought we could make this 450,000. And with all the other funds put together, it should be coming back to the 561,704. So I think we can make that 450,000 even. And we'll check this over again. And then I will do something on page 87. Where's that at? That's coming from new positions. All right, that's 15, well, while I'm on this same page here, I have a budgeted in a 5% increase to health insurance. And I think that we think that that would be safe to make that zero.
Yet we did have some high claimants, but with our balance in our funds right now, and with the fact that some of those high claimants are not going to be here next year, we think that it would probably be good to hold the line at no increase.
We had budgeted in, like, I had put in what I expected to be the new positions, and the commissioners did not approve all those. So we had 21 additional, I'll explain this. Oops, I kind of jumped over there. I'll start at the top here. With health insurance, these are just the health insurance rates we've had since 2016. The employees basically pay 15%, the county pays the other 85%. So the county shares are like $8,000 for employee only, going up to $22,700 for the family plan. Then down here in this next little section, this is the coverage that we have January 1st of each of the last few years. And you can see, well, our employee count has gone from 647 to 500. Or 700, yeah. The number of employees who have waived the insurance, who haven't taken it, have gone from 100 down to 80. So we're having more people take the insurance, and maybe some of that is some changes at Purdue and other places. So we're seeing a shift from the low coverage, the no insurance or the employee-only sort of thing, and we're moving up to the children and the family plans. You know, we went from 151 to almost 200. Almost 50 more people are having the family plan than they did like 4 years ago. And we only have 50 more employees. So there is a shift to higher coverage, which costs more. So you can't just, what are our new employees? We got to be expecting more for our current employees. So get down here. This is my bottom part here. This is showing the shift by year. And we did add 18 employees in 2021, and so that's why this isn't coming to zero, the shift. We got 18 new people, 16 more people have the family plan. You know, we lost a few more spouses and no insurance. When I get down to my 2022, what I want to put in there, this is the shift that I'm just going to expect the shift to kind of continue, so I'm saying we'll have 5 less employees, current employees, with employee-only insurance, 2 more employee children, the spouse I'm leaving the same, and the employee family, I'm saying 6 more, and I'm just projecting. These are numbers I've just pretty much pulled out of a hat based on what's happened in the last few years. 3 less people are going to or be waiving insurance. So if I do that, and I make that one 0%, I'm saying $7.6 million is what we would need, and that should carry itself over to here. So we had 7.2 million budgeted for this year. Now I'm saying 7.6. Some of that's new employees, and some of it is the shift. But that does make a substantial difference. You're talking about more than $300,000 that we can shave off of what we had to start with. And I don't know what you want to do with my little proposal for the $25,000 to help pay off people's vacation time when they leave. And oh, there goes, screen's gone, but it's if the council is okay with having some money in there so that we can use this on occasion to help departments with some payoff of vacation time when an employee retires or leaves, if that is something you want to leave in there, or I can just zero it out.
What's the thoughts of the council?
You mean to carry over vacation?
when you retire, yeah, you get paid for your unused vacation, but this is, some departments, well, we're running into a problem, some departments not waiting until they have enough money, because if you're going to pay somebody, and sometimes it can be into the thousands of dollars that somebody's paying, and if the department is right away posting that position, we got to have somebody in there right away, at the end of the year, you don't have any money to pay the last payroll.
Right, I think it's important we keep it because it helps with the manpower issues of the departments.
So I'm hearing leave it.
Leave it.
Okay. We'll leave it.
Bob?
Yep.
Do we have enough, that's not very much of an increase on unemployment, and we have had, this year has had an uptick in the unemployment with the changes with COVID and everything, and, we put in a protest on everybody that leaves, but I think some of the people at the unemployment office have been a little more lenient, and we've also had a few that we were not able to win in our protests. So if that trend were to continue, I'm not sure that 2,000 would be enough, 2,000 additional.
We could, part of my numbers, what I'm doing with the health insurance, I'll jump back to that. This is, I kind of chart this every
You just
payroll.
lost your screen.
All right, I'm on over here, but Doug can see what I'm talking about. I'm just talking to Doug over here. Right now, it looks like, I may have some money to transfer. Right
Okay,
now, it
well,
looks
and
like
some
I
of
got
that does
1 cent,
come
but
out of other
If we want to move it up,
departments,
that's
but-
fine. Like to 30,000 or higher than that, or 50,000?
No, I don't think we need to go that high. I just think that probably go up at least 5,000 from the 21 budget, so, bring that up about 3,000 more.
Well, if we're going
To
to 29,
29.
we might as well go to 30.
Okay, 30. I was trying to be conservative, but, and, it just really helps if the department heads practice their progressive discipline, just a little public service announcement there, because that does save us money on our unemployment, so.
So, Bob, I have a question about the 25,000. So are you saying we would keep that till the end of the calendar year in case there was a shortfall of?
No.
No.
What I would contend, and I don't know who would be taking care of this, but if you had a long-term employee retire and say their payoff was going to be $4,000, that on that last payroll, Heather can be yanking some money out of here.
So it's first
on a
come,
case
first
by case,
serve.
I think a case-by-case basis, there needs to be some sort of standard, not just somebody who's going to get, $200 extra. That at some point you need to be keeping a position open for a little period of time to make up that difference. But, if you have someone who's been here for 40 years and pretty much maxed out on vacation, because it can be a few thousand. I'm kind of thinking the more severe cases of the large amounts.
So
we can just
I
do that
guess-
in payroll. We can just be pulling some time out of this line instead of out of.
I guess my question is, who's determining what department is going to be allowed to use this? Because that could get sticky.
Right. I guess the commissioners. Since you're asking that question, you don't want to do it.
I think Tom's wanting that to not be his responsibility.
At this point, we're telling departments that they need to plan for that, and they
Yes.
either need to request an additional appropriation, or they need to leave that position open until that can be funded, so to
And
speak.
people aren't always doing that. So, that's what I'm just
Exactly.
trying, because we've been in this situation, I just thought, well, this is maybe one solution to help, and it's not going to be across the board that anytime there's a payoff, we can take it out of here, because we would need a lot more than $25,000.
I would just suggest before we do this, we have some sort of policy in place. in regard to it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would hate to
Yeah,
put it in here and then it end up being abused,
yeah, yeah. I think it could get real sticky.
because I could see it being a bailout fund for somebody else's mismanagement.
Yeah.
Not to, but yeah.
Obviously, somebody, not that department, somebody else is going to have to approve it to say, yeah, we're okay to do this, that, I don't know. That's just, if you want to throw it all out and say, go back to the way we were before, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but.
I mean, don't we want to encourage people to be taking, it's for people who have vacations, right? Who don't use their vacations and they want to pay out at the end. Is that what we want to be encouraging? Don't we want to be encouraging people to take their vacations?
I think when the department has a person that is leaving, and sometimes it's unexpected, that this amount would help cover so you don't have to run with that position short. And I know from the sheriff's department that I always tried to fill the position as quick as I could, and there were payouts that we had to do. And this fund would be there for any department we have, so that way you don't have to run without that position as long as that they have that amount coming. So just to help with manpower mainly, I think, and to help the department heads to be able to cover what is owed in vacation or whatever the time is.
How much vacation can someone accumulate? Maybe I should start there.
It's 150% of what they would accrue normally. So the maximum would be 5 weeks, so 150% would be 7.5 weeks would be the maximum that,
We would be paying out.
Right, right. But keep in mind that there's also comp time. And that's one of the reasons why the commissioners have tried to limit that to the 100 hours. Because in some cases, we have people that are being paid out their comp time, their vacation time, their personal day, and their floating holiday, if they haven't used it.
So you can carry vacation over each year?
Yeah, it's an accrual base.
Right,
and
only
with your
150%.
With your accrual bank can only, you can only have a maximum of the 150% in there. So there are some employees who actually lose time if they don't take it because they've accrued their maximum and then they don't earn that with each of the following pay periods after that.
Well,
Since this budget goes into effect January 1, do you think that in the next 3 months that we could get a policy together so that when this becomes available January 1, that we have something to fall back to in regards to policy? If that's the concern.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
There's a lot that would go into that. I mean, this is just my opinion,
What
but,
if they're grant funded?
yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
this is a sticky wicket.
it really is.
This wouldn't be something that across the board anybody could use, yeah, because grants, this would have to be a general fund employee to start
Right.
with.
And so if you had a department that had a combination, or maybe that aren't general fund, then they wouldn't be able to use that, and
Yeah.
that would probably cause.
Stu's going to have to figure it out himself.
Yeah.
I think
So it
we had
sounds
a,
like the
Stu said he'd
intent
cover it.
is good-natured, but the practice is incredibly complex.
right.
And so I would venture to say, for the time being, just nix it and have the departments handle it internally for right now.
We used to have a policy, I believe, at Lily's, you use it or lose it. So that made people take their vacations. Because some people would never take a vacation. So, but
Well,
that's
they
just a
do lose
comment.
vacation.
Yeah, they do. They lose it after the.
I agree with Ben. It's good intent, but in
Okay,
practice, it's
and
tough.
So I'm going to rule that we're taking it out unless I'm pushed real hard. I've gotten more negatives than I have positives. Sorry, Bob. I like the idea, but I think it's the getting it implemented is going to be a royal pain. Okay. Well, we're pretty much against our time. We've finished with everything in general. Yeah, we've gone through it, yes. Where are we on the number as we stand?
what I have for, like, my little DLGF formula, I would say we have to cut $290,519, or $290,000, where we started at, well, that's not the 93%.
That's not the magic number.
This is the easy number that we
That's
should
the
really
easy
get.
one.
I think I need to make a. Now, what the state would do, if we turn that in, they would approve that, because they would just be lowering the operating balance by that much money. When you get down to, if you want this 93%, we still need to cut $2 million. Now, the
So-
one thing you've got sitting out there is the lit rainy day money. 3.4 million. That,
And we also haven't allocated all of the public safety money, correct?
I think I have done that now.
Okay.
I think I've taken that away from the sheriff and added it to lit public safety.
So we're basically at just shy of 2.2, and we have a couple of different potential options that we could be looking at.
Why did we decide to go to 93% when in the past we've used 96?
Part of it, because this year we're basically doing a 2-year pay increase. And so last year we did 96 and give a 0% pay increase. So in our cash balance, let's see, where do I have that at? If you see, no, I don't have the cash balances there. On page 71, it is there. When you see our cash balances, you know, at the end of 2020, our cash balance was 15 million, which was a couple $1 million higher. And now we're talking about higher than that. At the end of 21, we're going to have maybe a balance not at 17 million, but do we need to burn down some of the cash balance just because we didn't give a pay increase last year? So that's where I'm thinking, instead of the 96, do the 93 to kind of get us back to almost be doing a 2-year budget. And that's just my little theory.
Or Bob, what you said.
Because 96, we're going to have to be doing employee cuts. I just don't know how we can do that.
Or what you said is take 2.2 from lit and then we're done.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty simple.
Well, yeah, we have, that's why I was saying, we have some options. So that's what I was wondering, if it would be better just to leave it as we sit, think about it, and we can discuss it in the morning, decide what levers we want to pull, since we're already past, almost 4:15. And where do we need to pick up on other funds? I know we need to do highway yet. What else, Bob, do we need to start with?
I'd probably just like to go through all of them just down the line.
Okay.
Because we've kind of hit and missed some of them along the way, and, but we probably need to go back through the general fund again if you want to do that, or whatever you want to do, but all the other funds probably need to be, I can just go straight down the line because I don't want to miss somebody.
Yeah, okay. So we'll pick up
Can I ask
there.
one question? The number that you gave is the 2.173800. Did you verify the 2 maintenance positions? Were those put in? You've got those, you took care of that? Okay, I just need to cross it off my list.
Okay, we'll pick up there tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. Thank you.